Conference will now be recorded.
And that would have helped them too. That.
Wes Bonheim.
Aye.
Mike Solori.
Aye.
Tasha Basheen.
Aye.
Tristan Sanders.
Motion carries. All right, let's move on. Correspondence discussion item number 1, Humboldt County correspondence. Chris?
Yeah, I can see, I can see that Lieutenant Josh McCall is online, but I don't know if he can hear us since our audio is experiencing some problem here online. So Lieutenant McCall, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear and see you now. Or
Perfect.
we can.
Oh, there we go. All right. Well, good morning. Looking at the stats.
Hold on one second, Lieutenant McCall. Our audio on this end is a little
Okay.
off. I'll unmute. Go ahead and speak now.
All right. Yeah, so looking at stats from middle of August 15th to September 15th for the Shelter Cove area, calls for service or incidents were up slightly, I believe, by about 8 from the previous, from the July 15th, August 15th period. Went from mid 50s to 64 calls total for that August to September timeframe. With that, a good chunk of those were calls that were transfers to other agencies. So again, things like fire, medical, or possibly CHP. And then I think with that increase, part of that was it looks like deputies were probably able to get out and do a few more patrol checks out in the Shelter Cove area that were logged either just in general or maybe after going out there for a call for service and then just spending some time cruising around because we had a few more of those logged this time period than in the last month. Nothing that stands out with this. A handful of dispatch reports being calls where there's probably no crime or something, but it's just logged as some kind of a dispatch record. I had a handful of welfare checks, 6 of those, 5 public assist, a few neighbor problems, a couple of 911 hangups, a couple of 911 misdials, and then a couple of vehicle investigations and everything, one each of just a bunch of handful of things: agency assist, animal problem, civil service, CWS referral, incorrigible juvenile, information report, 1 suspicious circumstance, 1 threat report, 1 vehicle burglary, 1 unwanted subject. So nothing number wise that stands out to me, and nothing that's come across my desk as an increase or significant specific issue occurring in the area. It's not in this stat period. I know we did have the incident with the aircraft this last weekend. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in that, and seems like it was resolved rather quickly. So with that is what I have as far as stats for the last that last month period. Anybody has any questions or anything else they would like me to speak to?
I have a comment. I'd like to see the presence of the sheriffs here, so thank you.
Did you hear the comment? He likes to see the presence of the sheriffs here.
I could not, but yeah, awesome. That's good to hear. I'm glad that they're seeing a presence out there, and definitely, it's one of those things. It's getting out there isn't always necessarily the easiest, but obviously the deputies do their best to try and get out there as much as feasibly possible.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Parks and Rec.
All right, so we'll move on to discussion item number 2, Parks and Rec Committee report. Let's see. I guess that'll be it.
Yeah, Laura's not here today, so she's sent over a description of the meeting. I was not in attendance and haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So she has. At the last September Parks and Recreation Strategic Planning Committee meeting, the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee met to discuss, or the subcommittees met to discuss several key topics concerning future management and development priorities within the district. One of the first ones is under golf course operations and use considerations. The committee discussed possibly leasing out the golf course operations to minimize the ongoing financial and maintenance burden currently carried solely by the district. The goal would be to explore potential partnerships or lease agreements with qualified operators or local entities who can maintain and improve this facility while ensuring continued community access. Next, they discussed shared responsibility for parks and recreation. The committee agreed that long-term sustainability will require collaboration with local nonprofit organizations. These partnerships could help manage community programming, fundraising, and maintenance projects, thereby reducing the sole responsibility of Parks and Rec on the district, while still promoting community involvement and public benefit. The third thing, they discussed the sports court location, FAA compliance. They did discuss the alternate site for the proposed sports court, which was discussed in light of the FAA regulations affecting development near the airport. And the committee requested that members visit the alternate site under consideration just for evaluation and to evaluate feasibility, accessibility, and potential community impact before making the formal recommendation. The next step is research that they're looking at is researching potential lease structures and comparative models for public golf courses, begin outreach to local nonprofits for collaborative management discussions, and conduct site visits to future potential sports court locations as well as other parks and trails. We just had the agenda setting meeting for the next meeting, which will be next Thursday at 10 a.m. here at Fire Hall. And it looks like we'll be appointing the new committee members to the subcommittees and potentially adding another subcommittee for Parks and Rec budget line item. And then I just wanted to address briefly questions or concerns that members of the public spoke to at the last RID board meeting, which I did watch. And just briefly, the committee is dedicated to abiding by the Brown Act and are following the Robert Rules of Order. So just for clarification, there's been no Brown Act violations. One of the benefits to having such a large committee is we're able to put our subcommittees in groups of threes. And so we're able to accomplish a lot more that way, but we are following the Brown Act. So I just wanted to make sure that was there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board members got any remarks on this topic? No? Public comment?
I don't think that they should be in a Brown Act. They don't have any money, budget. They don't have any, they don't have any say. There should be no reason for them to be in a Brown Act when by opposing the Brown Act, you can go to jail. I don't think anybody has been sworn in. I think that would also be something that you need to do on the Brown Act.
Okay. So me
So,
talking.
Yeah, I don't see why there should be a Brown Act.
This is typical operating procedures for standing committees of public agencies, and we are required to abide by the Brown Act. And it's also, it does protect the committee, and it also protects the public interest of taxpayer money. Everything is being done in a transparent public meeting, and that's how we have to operate. I had heard that people were wondering about whether or not we had to abide by the Brown Act, and we most certainly do. I've already looked into that.
Why didn't I have to do that when I was on an ad hoc committee for the community center?
You did.
No,
Yes, you guys
we
did.
had dinners over, we
Right.
broke that Brown Act
No,
every single week.
Okay, yeah, I won't get into that. But if you want to discuss it after, I'm happy to discuss that. But it is according to laws that we have to follow the Brown Act as a standing committee.
Yeah, I was talking about.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, moving on. Lot WW3, well, grant funded project update. Chris?
Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to provide an update on this project. It's been going on for a couple of years now, and we're almost done with it. So this is a good time to provide an update. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Entire screen. Okay, so in late 2021, I know it's kind of small on the screen up there, but that is Lot W on Willow Glen Road, borders Willow Glen Road, Shelter Cove Road, large piece of green belt with a large flat spot there. In late 2021, the district applied for the Urban and Multi-Benefit Drought Relief Grant from the Department of Water Resources, administered by the County of Humboldt. In mid-2022, the district was awarded the grant in the amount of $95,000 with a committed match of $39,000 to improve the Lot W well site on Willow Glen Road. The original project concept, it's going to be small on the screen up here, but comprised of purchasing and installing a chlorine oxidation treatment system at the site to remove excessive levels of iron and manganese from the existing W2 well, which was drilled in 2012. After engineering review of this project and further staff input, staff determined that this proposal would entail high operations and maintenance costs, excessive staff time, added chemical costs, and an extraneous wastewater component, which is out of the sewer district there. So let me see. So staff then assessed alternatives, keeping in mind that options were limited because the grant funds were tied to Lot W. Eventually, staff decided that drilling a new well was the best choice. The new well would be the same size as W2, which is an 8-inch casing, but closer to the existing W1 well at the same site. So on the screen, it's very small, but you can see where these 3 wells are located. W1 well, which is the one at the bottom here, was drilled in 2011, and it's a very good producing well without the iron and manganese issues of W2, which is over here on the very north end. But it only has a 5-inch casing. So the logic was that by adding a larger well closer to the proven location of W1, the district would achieve a substantial increase in groundwater production. This would also meet the goals stated in the grant application to reduce reliance on surface water from Telegraph Creek and reduce pumping and treatment costs. This change was also estimated to cost roughly the same as the original project concept, without that concept's ongoing costs of operations, maintenance, staff time, chemicals, and wastewater. So now I'm going to start this slideshow. So staff proceeded to bid out the project early in 2024. Fish Drilling was awarded the project and completed the new well later that year. After they drilled the new well, they conducted an 8-hour drawdown test and determined that it would produce 80 gallons per minute, or roughly about 115,000 gallons per day, which exceeded the estimate in the original project proposal of 80,000 gallons per day. As a comparison, the existing W1 well with its 5-inch casing only produces about 50 gallons per minute, or about 72,000 gallons per day. This is an increase of 43,000 gallons per day, or roughly a 60% improvement in groundwater production at the site. And I detailed that in a graph in the board packet. In late 2024, the county grant administrator informed us that another entity receiving DWR grant funds completed their project with funds remaining that could be reallocated to our project. As a result, earlier this year, an additional $6,300 in relinquished funds from that project was successfully attributed to ours, increasing our grant total to $101,300. Staff completed construction of the new well in the summer and fall of this year, successfully meeting the grant stipulated construction deadline of September 30th. Construction included the installation of an electrical panel, piping and fittings to connect the new well to our distribution system, and a new well enclosure. Currently, staff have been conducting flushing operations of the well in anticipation of sampling in the next month or so. The grant deadline is December 31st of this year. Most recently, I've been working with the county grant administrator to receive more unused funds from this DWR funded grant. I've been informed that $30,000 is available from another completed project in the group, which will be reallocated to ours, bringing our grant total to $131,300. To date, the project has cost a total of just over $145,000, $145,550. There will be some additional costs to complete the project, including lab sampling, a sodium hypochlorinator feed pump, and an improved electrical panel for the W2 well, which was removed and installed at W3 in the interest of completing construction on time. Estimates for these additional costs amount to around $10,000. Adding that projected cost to what has already been spent brings the project total to $155,550. The difference between this amount and the grant funds is $24,250, which falls right in line with the project budget set at $25,000 in our current fiscal year capital expenses. Now, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Whoops. So I also able to work with the county grant administrator to make an amendment to the grant agreement and reduce our in-kind commitment from the original $39,000 to match the actual difference, which will be $24,250. This is now effectively all the district will have spent to complete this project. And I've graphed that in your board packet. So financial impact, as I just said, the district will have spent an estimated total of $24,250 on the W3 well project and received $131,300 from the DWR grant. So I just wanted to provide that update on this project, which I know we have another big project in the Cove right now with the sports court, but this is also going on simultaneously, and just wanted to educate you on this one. So any questions?
Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Any other board members got questions or comments?
Yeah, what percentage of our water does come from wells in the Cove?
We can get it 40%. Is it
Really?
around 40%? Yeah, 40%.
And is the goal to eventually just get off Telegraph Creek?
No, I wouldn't say that's the goal. No, but you definitely want to supplement it, especially in the summertime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just real quick, so should we have results of those water samples by the November meeting?
Probably maybe November, but definitely December.
I've got a couple of questions. First of all, I think that's fantastic that you were able to go back and get the additional funding and work with the county. So, good job on that. Especially reducing our income to recovery. In terms of the well, this might be more a question for Travis. Do we have any idea what the wells are tapping into? Is there like an underground river there? Is there some sort of an aquifer, like an aquifer that they're reaching, or do we have any idea at all?
It's tapping a separate aquifer from W1. When we have the well drawdowns on the SCADA, we can run it and see no drawdown on W1. And we've tested it multiple times. By looking at the topography of the hillside, it almost looks like it's separate. Typically, aquifers, every one well will tap them all, and elevation changes how we are. They can be separate within a couple hundred feet. So we're not seeing any drawdown from W1 right now.
Okay.
And it's only within 75 yards away.
Yeah, they're really good.
And they're both drilled to the same depth too. I think pretty sure about that. 320 feet down.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's great news. So we could run theoretically both wells at the same time and be able to pull from different sources of water.
Yes, and we're watching it daily and collecting data every time we run it and flush. So if we do see an issue or something, but we're looking at it when the water cohesion was low in the summertime, and that's when you want to look at it, and we didn't see any drawdown on W1. Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Awesome. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say, Chris, is thank you for putting in here that it falls within the project budget. This is a budgeted item. Something that I'd like to see going forward, and we can discuss this more as a board if we want, but when we get these reports, as far as our expenditures, if we could have an understanding if that is a budgeted item and maybe tie into what item in the budget, I think that would be really helpful. So that way if if we're talking about something that's already been budgeted, that we're gonna go beyond, or
Mhm.
if it's an expense that, you've already planned. I think that'd be helpful for us for making decisions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Board members? No? Public comment? Public comment on the, well? No? Okay,
Nothing on mine.
nothing, okay, then we will move on. Correspondence, item number 4, review public complaint against a board director. Now, I have a little preamble to this that I want to line out, kind of as the moderator set parameters here. Both parties agreed to do this in an open public forum. I disagreed with it, but since they agreed to it, so be it. Let's do it. We've never done this before in a RID meeting. So I'm going to set some parameters that are, I think, fair for both parties. I will allow both parties to read their prepared statements as they're open. And then there will be timed 3-minute time limit for rebuttals. You get 1 rebuttal. After both rebuttals are done, then we will go to board for comment. And then we will go to the public for public comment. And then that will be it. It's over and done with. So with that being said, Chris, you want to start off?
Yeah, I can start it off. All right, so, and yeah, I want to express too that normally this would be a closed session action item, but we did, with consent from all parties involved, make this an open session. And I recently read an article where it said this could be a good idea. It's holding difficult conversations in public, can promote a culture of transparency, and may prevent public charges of cover-ups and conspiracy. So we are in the open. So some background. According to District Policy 1030, public complaints, a public complaint is an allegation by a member of the public of a violation or misinterpretation of a district policy, state, or federal statute of which the individual has been adversely affected. This policy also applies to a public complaint against a district staff member or member of the board of directors. A member of the public, Arlen Reed, has officially filed a public complaint against board director Wes Bonheim. Arlen's complaint form is attached in the board packet. The complaint centers around Wes's vote on the proposal by Verizon to extend the 75-foot communications tower on Kelly Road by 20 foot at the board meeting of September 18th, 2025. Arlen claims that Wes changed his initial vote from tabling the item to approving it based on a personal decision to spite Arlen's opposition to the proposal. As stated in Policy 1030, the individual with the complaint shall first discuss the matter with the general manager with the objective of resolving the matter informally. I met with Arlen to hear his complaint, and I recommended a meeting with Wes and me to discuss the issue in person. I also spoke with Wes about the matter. It seemed that both parties were at first amenable to a meeting. However, Arlen then emailed me a statement where he said, "I don't see even one positive thing coming from a face-to-face meeting with Wes. An apology would give me zero confidence that the grudge he held against me for the entire action item on the agenda is gone to never return." He subsequently submitted a complaint form where he stated that his specific remedy sought is for the removal of Director Bonheim and possibly a board member ethics refresher course. This is not a resolution I can provide. According to Policy 1030, if the general manager cannot resolve the complaint, then the board may consider the matter at the next regular meeting or call a special meeting. The board will expeditiously resolve the matter. In making the final decision, the board may conduct conferences, hear testimony, as well as utilize the transcripts of written documentation. A written decision from the board shall be provided if requested by the individual filing the complaint. I also reached out to legal counsel Ryan Plotz of Mitchell Law Firm. Mr. Plotz stated that so long as the motion from the board to table the item did not pass, Wes is free to change his vote. Mr. Plotz also said that Arlen can file his public complaint since it's a protected activity, but the board has no obligation to act on it. And I'll add, Arlen has the right. The legal counsel also said that Arlen has a right as a member of the public to comment, and there's nothing unlawful about his comment to turn in the RID over a perceived permitting violation on a project if the board approves another project. This is protected speech, as legal counsel said in an email. So not applicable financial impact recommendation, motion for the board to, or for the, no motion for the board to, the recommendation is for the board to address the public complaint and provide direction to staff for a written decision to the complainant if requested.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with Wes. Make his statement, and there's no time restrictions for both opening statements.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. So I don't actually have a formal statement. So I do want to talk a little bit about, I think, the nature of our board and the nature of us being a representative democracy. We are here, the 5 local board members, to make decisions based on input from the public. We were put here by the public, whether through their action or inaction. And it's our job to make those decisions, I think, as one of the other board members pointed out, that a lot of people aren't interested in making. And some of those decisions are difficult, and they affect the lives of the members of the public and the community. And I think our goal up here as board members, and I think indeed the public comment that we receive, is to do what we think is best for the community. And that can change based on the input that we receive from the community. And last week, there was a lot of community members that were opposed. Through discussion with those community members, which is how democracy is supposed to work. I came to the realization that the effect of adding this antenna was not really very impactful on those in the surrounding areas, especially when compared with some of the safety concerns that have been brought up by some of the staff. Specifically, I wanted to say that I've always appreciated everyone's input. I think, even today, he's brought some valuable things up. And at that meeting last week, he also brought some valuable information to the board. And I think that he consistently does that at every meeting. I'm disappointed that as a result of one disagreement, that Arlen thinks that I have a grudge against him that I will continue to hold. Democracy is not a clean process. It's kind of a messy process, right? That's open discussion. We're going to disagree with each other. We're in a very small community. That's what happens. I disagree with my fellow board members very regularly, but that doesn't mean that I don't like them, or that I don't get along with them, or that I don't wish to get along with them. I don't like being threatened. In a decade working as a litigator, I found that threats are not a very effective method of communication. And so I called it out when I saw it. I would like to think that as a board and as a community, we would like to work towards an environment where everyone feels safe to come up and speak, regardless of what their opinion is, and without the fear of being threatened. And so, to the extent that we can help foster that, and this is not a comfortable process, this is not a comfortable discussion for me to be having, I'm sure it's not a comfortable discussion for Mr. Reed either, but doing it in public allows for that open discussion that is such an essential part of a representative democracy. So, thank you.
Thank you. Arlen?
I absolutely agree with most of the statements that you said, Wes. This has been the most nervous month altogether. And a few of the things that you're saying about the small community. Yeah, we're in a small community that emotions are going to be risen. There is going to be these again, and that's what my concern is. That this is all perceived threat. That when you quote, I was mean another way, but I don't like to be threatened. So this is all about a threat, a perceived threat. I want to say that you incited Kristen to say that I came up on her on an RID meeting. So that was another one. You held this grudge to me until the very end of the meeting to seek counsel, to see what you could do to people that threaten. And at this moment, I'd like Chris to read what the council said on that, please?
The,
Correspondence?
To the
This
extent
is
that.
email?
I mean, I think that I'm kind of concerned about losing the attorney-client.
Yeah.
privilege if we expose that specific information.
It was already read.
yeah, this was an email you were CC'd on with legal counsel. I did show it to Arlen, so he's aware of the email too. Just, I can try to paraphrase. I kind of said it in the beginning or at the end of just that Arlen can make that comment as a protected speech.
I'd appreciate just to read the whole thing. It wasn't more than 2 paragraphs or so, and it makes my point.
Well, regarding Wes's concern, Wes, you said that if I read legal counsel.
If you've already shown it to them, it doesn't matter.
Okay, all right. So legal counsel, in corresponding on this issue, said that I reviewed Mr. Reed's public complaint via the link below. There's nothing unlawful about his stated intent to turn the RID in over a perceived permitting violation on another project if the current proposal is approved. That is his right as a member of the public, and public entities often must address such comments. There is no legal action that could be pursued against this type of protected speech in a public forum. If the RID were to initiate legal action, Mr. Reed could file an anti-SLAPP strategic lawsuit against public participation motion, likely resulting in dismissal of the case along with an award of his attorney's fees. I also do not see any legal issue with Reed seeking to file a formal complaint. This is a protected activity, and the RID is under no obligation to act on the complaint. So it's kind of everything I kind of already mentioned there. Is that satisfied?
And they said that, Wes's change was okay because it was a tabled item in the change.
Yeah.
I see that as a technicality that he got away with. So it was just, if he would have done that without a motion being tabled. It was a technicality. I just thought being put the more scrutiny on this. So I represent of last year over 75 people with the Shelter Cove Property Owners Association. Forever now, is that my worries are, am I going to be able to represent those people without having that over my head? Am I going to sit next to people and will that be cause for somebody to vote against those people just because I sat next to them? These are the things that are going through my mind. This was very concerning to me. This is a fight that I've been putting up for over 15 years. So this is the first time that anybody's seen me that emotional in a meeting. And I feel attacked. I don't think that saying that when you are voted in or you make a commitment to the public, that when you do that, you can't make votes to hurt somebody. You can't vote to intimidate. And I think both of those were done against me. That's it.
Thank you. Wes, I'll give you a 3-minute time limit on your rebuttal, and then we'll go back to Mr. Reed for a follow-up rebuttal.
Sure. I just want to clarify that I voted to try and table the issue, and the issue was not actually tabled. That vote did not pass. And so the issue was open for a vote, and the vote was called for, and I voted on it.
Okay. Arlen, do you have a rebuttal? Arlen, do you have a rebuttal?
On that, no, I don't think I can.
Okay, with that being said, we'll move to the board. Any board members have any comments? Other than Les? No?
Yeah, I wasn't here at that meeting, I was in attendance, I did watch it. I do urge the board to go back and watch the meetings from a third-party perspective. It can be a little bit eye-opening and get a little bit more information outside of just sitting up here. What I would like to say is, when we do take the oath to sit up here and we take the oath of office to uphold the Constitution, which has free speech protection on that. What I watched at that meeting, in my opinion, was Arlen was not a threat. It was holding the district accountable, is what was stated, which we've already have legal counsel that has confirmed that. So I do think that referring to it as a threat when it's already been legally labeled as not a threat isn't productive in mitigating this confrontation, so to speak. And it is, when we do come up here, when we get on the board and we take that oath, and we are putting ourselves out to the public for both accolades, but also criticisms. And I know what that's like, right? I've had my character attacked numerous times, and but with that, I support that because that's free speech and it's protected. So I just would ask, go forward and less, that we work really hard to regain that trust. I think that if you and Arlen did have private conversations together, that you would see you had more in common than differences. And so I would just ask that maybe outside of this platform, that Arlen, and I'm asking this of you too, Arlen, that you did make a statement saying that grievances or a grudge last forever. My experience in this community is grudges tend to not live forever. We could very well see each other at another community event and be engaging and have an impactful engagement with Wes in the future, So I just think that we do have, as the board, have to be careful about how we present our decisions when we do make those tough calls. And the perceptions from the community are important, even if they could be tainted, so to speak. But it did feel like, in my opinion, that Arlen's character was being attacked when it was referenced that was a threat when it really was not, and the council has backed that up. So.
Any other board members have any questions or comments?
I do. I think that this is a tough job because you want to please everybody, you can't please everybody, and most of them can't please anybody. That being said, I also think that as a board member, I didn't take Arlen's comment as a threat. I could take other comments as a threat, but I think it was already a heated discussion based on a sports court and funding of a community center. So I think that the atmosphere was already a contentious atmosphere. And I have to say to Arlen that, on his tower, it affects him more than just about anybody, if not anybody in this room. And so when a prior board gives an approval for a certain height, and then a new board member or a new board comes across and says, well, we're not going to count that new height, we're just going to approve it because, well, why not? What's 20 feet? Now, that's not right as this board, in my opinion. I voted against it, but that's irrelevant because the board changed that vote. What I can understand Arlen's position because it is something that's very impactful to him. Now, his comment about going after another proposal or action item that could, that where members of the public have flat out said they're not gonna adhere to it and they're gonna go for it. Well, I'm gonna have to say, on Arlen's behalf, well, you guys go against me and then you expect me not to go against another project that we're approving, knowing that this community has potential of breaking that project. Well, I don't know, that seems kind of hypocritical to me, I'm not into hypocrisy at all. Now, as far as West goes, again, back, I never took it as a threat, and I'm part of that general threat of this board. He didn't direct it to me, as to Wes. Wes took it as a full board. I didn't get kind of that same impact. But I have to say again that pretty much this public can say anything they want. I hope my skin's thicker than it is, but it's not, it's thin. Anything you guys say to me is gonna affect me. I take this job very serious, as every board member does. I said, I think my one final comment would be decorum, civility, be nice. And by the way, nice isn't just the verbiage that comes out of your mouth, it's also the verbiage of your body language and the tone of your voice. So I ask as a board member that we have a great form of communication, that's democracy. Whether I like what you say, that's open for interpretation. Most of the time after I heard it and I go home and go, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Or they said that to me. But I guess my comment would be, try to be nice. I think the issues are the issues and some impact other people more than others. Maybe I have a different impact with Arlen because I don't live by that tower. I don't know. I don't know if I'd have a different opinion on that sports court because I'm not gonna hear over football all day. But I know I'm gonna be as open-minded as I can, no matter the issue.
Thank you. Any other board members before we go to public comment?
Yeah. I was at the meeting and I will say I did feel threatened by Arlen in his body language, what he said. I was very nervous about putting the motion up to vote again. Yeah, I will go with what Jeff said, like niceness. Like there are a lot of decisions that we are gonna have to make that are not gonna be popular with the public, but it was really nice. There were neighbors of the towers that helped like guide me through the motion to make it something that they could live with. And that was where I was really torn. As much as I wouldn't want to live next to a tower either. There's also like public safety in Shelter Cove, and that's one of the only services besides power and water that we can offer the people coming to visit is safety too. And that was where I was really torn. And I felt for you, Arlen, but then also there is a tower that is, I believe, like 40 feet higher than what we approved. I guess I just want to say is like, this isn't exactly like a dream job. And so working, like helping us like go through a process that can make things more palatable is just like so much easier. And I didn't realize that the public can threaten the board. I guess that is protected speech. So that's interesting to me to find out. But honestly, I think Wes has been such a great addition to the Shelter Cove community and this board. I think he saw something that I'm so used to dealing. Arlen, we've definitely had run-ins in the past, and you do have this tendency to explode and say things that are super inappropriate. And Wes called it out, and I was like, whoa, I didn't even see it happen. I'm just so used to it. And so I will say, thank you for like putting a new set of eyes. I think we're all very used to like these where we can just go at each other like that. And it's like, no, that's not how we're gonna run a board meeting. we're gonna have decorum, we're gonna be nice, and we're gonna figure out the best for everyone. And so I just wanted to say that, I think this is really difficult, and in a way, I feel like this is like a bullying thing, that like, you didn't get your way, and so now you're trying to get your way in another way, and sometimes you just can't have it. So, in some ways, I feel like this is a waste of time too, for how much I'm sure this has taken up. Like, we're adults here. You guys could have figured it out without using up all these people's hours, like wages, all those things. So I hope that like in the future, when there are disagreements, we can handle it at the meeting and not keep bringing it back. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna go do public comment. Any public comment? Yes, sir.
Thanks. Just a couple quick things. I think the most important thing that a few people have said is let's focus on kindness and civility. Okay? We can have our disagreements, and we will have our disagreements. And, sometimes in the heat of emotional topics, things come out. Sometimes, inappropriate words, sometimes threats. By the way, listening to what the council said, the council did not say that was not a threat. What he said was that it is a protected speech. Okay, and of course, some people perceive things differently. Kristen and Wes might perceive something as a threat, and Jeff did not perceive it as a threat. And that's just how things come and go. So let's just be kind and civil, and recognize that all of you make votes based on your best judgment. And I don't believe Wes or Tristan or whoever made votes based on personal grudges. I believe they made votes based on, this is the input we received, the pros and the cons. There's always pros and cons, and we'll make votes based on our best judgment, just like Jeff does. He and I don't agree on his votes, but I respect that he's making votes based on the data he's receiving, not based on his personal animosities. And so I recognize we can all feel sometimes attacked, but that's internal, and it's our perspective that matters the most. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Anybody else, public?
We do have one online. Pam Brenner, would you like to make a comment? I'll mute myself when you start talking.
Morning, Pam Brenner here. Thank you for taking my comments. I wasn't at that meeting, but I did listen to the recording, which I do often if I can't attend. I have to say that I agree with Tristan. I think Wes Bonham is a fine addition to the board. I think he's fair. I think he's balanced. And I think he does, he's very thoughtful about what he says and the concise way in which he says it. Let's not kid ourselves. My opinion is let's not kid ourselves about the various alliances in Shelter Cove. We are a small community, and there are friend groups and there are association groups, and obviously we want to support the people we hang out with. But I have to say in this particular instance, and I didn't comment at the time because I wasn't there, not having cell coverage in Shelter Cove is a serious issue. And I think that the decision the board made to proceed judiciously with making sure that you can dampen the sound and you can minimize the impact, that needs to be taken into account. I am sorry that Arlen is directly affected, but will he be directly affected by this tower, or is he affected by the Coast Guard tower as the primary issue there? That I don't know. But what I do want to say is times change, and previous board decisions once may have been relevant, may no longer be relevant. And I've sat through enough of these meetings where I have seen the board change its decision. based on a decision made by a previous board. And you have to stay current and stay with the times. I thank you all for your service. I know it's not an easy job, but I will say that from my perspective, when I watched that meeting, I could see how Tristan shrunk back and how it could have been perceived as a threat, whether intended or not. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Now, Arlen, you waived your rebuttal, and I can't allow you to go on making more comments on this topic, but thank you. Any other members of the audience would like to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Having been in that position, I really appreciate what you're going through right now. And I appreciate the thought that you're giving to it. As a board member, I used to get the packet on Friday, studied it. By Wednesday night, I had most of my decisions made. But I always allowed for decisions to be made here because it's a board discussion. It's not cut and dried before we get here. And people in the audience often have things to say. And I know several times I had a decision made when I got here, but somebody in the audience or on the board changed my mind with what they had to add, what I was already thinking of. So when Wes changed his vote, or however you want to look at it, that's really common. The 50-50 votes are where the board earns their big bucks. 49-51 votes are easy, anybody can do that. The 50-50 ones are hard. And sometimes it's the last moment before you vote that you see your way. And I also really appreciate your opinions that we need to be civil with each other at the board meeting.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else? Arlen?
It's not a rebuttal or anything, I just.
I understand that, but I was not allowing Mr. Bonham to make any comments during this time either. You had your opportunity. But thank you. Anybody else? No? That being said, we're moving on.
Just
I can't.
I would like to say something though. About the tower and Pam Brenner saying something. The reason why I wanted that table motion wasn't about the coverage. I think that we definitely need the emergency coverage. It was another location that would allow us to have the same type of coverage. I think if we would have tabled it, we could have also had Tesh's input as far as the action. And on top of that, I think that, I don't know, maybe T-Mobile would rather be on top of Verizon, and Verizon is the new customer. So there's just a lot of issues that could have been discussed further. But it's never been about the fact that we definitely need emergency coverage. I think we still would have added it in another location. I think that unfortunately it was, back to what's the easiest option. Sure, it's adding 20 feet to the tower. I agree that the board needs to be fluid, and I think that being fluid and ever-changing universe, that past board members, or past board, some of those decisions will be overturned. That being said, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
But I did want to add too, that part of the staff recommendation is for the board to provide direction to staff for a written decision to the complainant if requested. Now, I think I did hear verbally that he did request a written decision, so.
Arlen, would you like a written decision?
That's what I was just gonna ask, because on his recommendation, it said to staff for a written decision. I would like each one of the board members for their own decision.
I don't think so. You have a question? Go ahead.
Is it possible, I know you were already given this opportunity, but is it possible for you two to meet with the general manager and maybe help plan some of this out. I know, Arlen, you expressed, the concerns of it just being an apology, being hollow, but we are a small community, and this is in my opinion, is something that needs to be addressed and healed, and so that we can move forward in a positive manner. Would you be open to, and maybe Wes, would you be open to meeting with the general manager to further discuss this?
Yes.
I would like to see them have a meeting.
Wes is agreeable.
Can I be at the meeting too?
I don't think that's,
Okay.
no, I think it's a one-on-one with the general manager.
Yeah, the complaint was, against us.
But if you want your own meeting with me, I can do that with Chris too.
But as far as each board member writing some type of justification for our votes or what have you, that is not gonna happen. So after that meeting, we can have Chris type something up for you. But it's not gonna happen. Okay, so moving on.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet.
You're happy with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We can set that up, Chris.
Yeah, I can set that up.
At your convenience, sir. All right, moving on. Board member staff reports, directors. We'll start with the directors first. I did the agenda setting meeting, and that's all I did this month. You guys all had a lot of activity.
Okay. Yeah, Tricia and I and Jeff attended a training through the Community Services District Association. And I think we all had a very positive experience. I think we all met some very interesting folks, and it was interesting getting their input on how they do different things in their community services districts and the various districts. I had no idea that vector control was a service district, which is basically mosquitoes. Yeah, there was a guy there from mosquito. But anyway, so we met some general managers and some folks. I think one of the biggest, a couple of really big takeaways, there was one individual who was a speaker, and he was great, and he, is willing to come out and assist us with some trainings as far as some of the ways that the district is run, not necessarily as a board, but the district in general. He's run a few different boards, and he's been doing it for a while. He's run a few different districts, rather, he's been doing it a while. And then also, there was a speaker who dealt with financial end of things. And so in terms of creating, managing a budget, adjusting a budget, different ways to secure financing, and different ways to use that financing to kind of maximize the limited resources that we have, was very valuable. He's also willing to come out and give a training. So, this is all kind of through the CSDA, which is an organization that we belong to as a community services district. So, it was a great meeting. I think we all came away with a lot of information, and that was the reason why I asked you if you could, be more specific about how our items are budgeted, and anyway. So, I think we're still. I know I've been talking a little bit with some of the other board members about ways to integrate some of the information that we got from the meetings, and so I really enjoyed that. Travis, email would like to speak with you. Maybe tomorrow.
I can't believe
Been corresponding a little bit with staff as well,
the time she takes.
and I have also
I know.
been corresponding with the public and completed a few.
I think it's certainly the regulations, 120 is what I thought, and it is. But inside is what I was thinking. The one bottoms are wider. If you put it on.
I know what you're saying. I'm not.
But I was curious about that.
Actually, no, I've been getting some feedback from some of the commercial business owners just about utility rates. Also, I still want to see a profit and loss statement in this folder, just a monthly one, and I'm almost done with my Brown Act webinar.
There's, okay, and part of our discussion, guys, there's a different term for it, and other things, and, and so, and then, yeah, there's something, yeah, and so I'll have to bring it and show you the document, because it's a different term.
Yes, there is. No, I was going to Google it and didn't, yeah.
So yes, just briefly, I wasn't here for last month, so briefly for the month of August, I had 12 plus hours in subcommittee meetings, along with meeting with the general manager, Mike Solari, and the community center subcommittee of the Parks and Rec Strategic Planning Committee. We met at the community center with the Atlas engineer for identifying potential redesign solutions for the community center. So yes, we did that back in August. So I just wanted to update on that. September I was off. So far for the month of October, and we'll have more things to add next month, for this month. But so far, I'm grateful for the training opportunity that I was able to participate in at the 2025 CSDA Special District Leadership Academy in Reading from October 5th through the 8th, along with Wes and Jeff. This consisted of roughly 2.5 days of special district public service educational trainings. And these workshops covered topics ranging from board meeting decorum, best practices to use while forming decisions when voting on district matters. It also covered best practices for GM evaluations. Best practices to use when forming and implementing a district strategic plan. And last, yet even more importantly, is it covered the basic best practices policies, basically do's and don'ts when forming annual budgets and assessing risk and managing liabilities, district liabilities. And plus some information on and practices on how to grow and maintain and account for the funds that we are holding in the reserves. Very informative. One of the biggest takeaways for myself would be is what a great asset that the CSDA is for special districts. That's the California Special District Association. And they provide just a wealth of educational and information to boards and general managers and secretaries of special districts. They stay up on all the latest rules and laws pertaining to us. And it is my hope that we as a board and the general manager are able to prioritize and taking advantage of these trainings. In particular, all the financial trainings for special districts and the strategic planning webinars, so that we will be able to be well educated on the protocols and procedures when making financial decisions pertaining to district budgets and approval of projects and implementing district policies. Also, I received 2 certificates of completion, one for the completion of the Special District Leadership Academy, and then a follow-up one of certificate in special district governance, which was also awarded to Jeff Hildreth. Good job, Jeff. For completion of required education plus additional public service education. So hopefully this will result in bettering ourselves as board members, operating as a team, and to serve the community by fiscal responsible stewards of taxpayer money. And the other, it was a big takeaway was it was a great opportunity to connect with other board members and general managers who are also dealing with the same challenges that come with operating within a special district, because it is quite different from other private boards and other government boards as well. And then on a side note, as the training liaison, if the next important trainings that I feel would be important for the board as a whole is the live webinar special district uniform accounting and reporting procedures that's coming up. And that we can go online and sign up for. It's for November 5th and 6th. It may cost money, we'll have to look at the budget and see if we can all do it, but I think it would be beneficial for the whole board to do it, because then we really know how we should be operating with the budget. And then also to please do the strategic planning webinar so that we can start moving forward on those meetings and we're on the same page on how those should be formatted. And then, yeah, if there are any other if the required ethics and harassment training still need to be completed, let's get that done as soon as possible so that we can bring us into compliance and help reduce the cost of our insurance. Thank you.
Any other board members?
It'd be me.
That'd be you.
I have to agree with everything that she just said, and Wesley was a very valuable conference, learned a lot. One of the biggest impacts, I think, was the reserve requirement, where it's basically we can't have enough reserves. So we just lowered it, so I think it's something that we're gonna have to address next year again, so that, I wish we would have had the conference prior to that, maybe we would have had a different outlook. Also, I think that each board member, it was so valuable, I can't imagine that every board member should do it. And back to Chris and Jessica, the camaraderie, but also the networking, I can't say enough. One of the things I did get out of it was that as this special district, if we can align with other special districts that are in Humboldt County alone, that we could really have a collective voice and really have more impact against the Board of Supervisors of Humboldt, or maybe we can obtain more money or a better distribution, more equitable distribution from those resources. So I think that that was one of the major outtakes that I got from it. I hope I'm given the opportunity to go do another one. I think there's one where when they have the new legislature sworn in, I think that I would love to go to that. I hope that I think Wes and Tristan would feel the same. I hope you would as well. It was quite enjoyable, but it was intense. It was 2.5 days of just being on. You know, they try to keep it loose as they can, but it was quite informative and intense. So I think that having another one can only reinforce what we learned. So I would say thank you for letting me have the opportunity to go.
Yeah, the more education that this board as a whole and the general manager, the better our decisions will be. And I think it would be instill public trust.
Yeah, and getting different perspectives, like, you know, what Jeff pulled from it, this is what I pulled from it, I'm sure you would get different stuff might be interesting. Another thing, again, kind of going back to our earlier discussion, a lot of those other service districts don't have the benefit of the public input to the extent that we do. You know, at one point there, you know, speakers are always trying to engage with us, right? So it's like, oh, who here's, you know, done X or done Y or done whatever. And one of the questions that they asked at one point was, who here has the public show up to their board? And, you know, of course, a bunch of words are handed. Who here has the public show up to their board regularly? And, you know, after about 3 of those kind of questions of how many, we were the only 3 with our hands up. So, you know, it's great that we really appreciate that.
Really quick, I'd say, please inform everybody that we need more people here.
Absolutely. All right, Chris.
Yeah, also for your information, that there's probably a dozen people online too, actually. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go on to
Operational status.
Yep. I'll go ahead and cover John, electrical superintendent's out on vacation. I'll cover his, and I'll do Parks and Rec departments too. For general manager's activities, I attended meetings with engineers to begin work on the preliminary engineering reports and seismic analyses of the water treatment plant and the 4 water tanks, Wes, Dick, John, and Omar tanks. These documents are required for potential grant funding applications. The work of these engineers is being funded by the EPA. Provided a tour of the system to 2 of these engineers who arrived late in the month. which was kind of funny. They were trying to get in before the government shut down, so they made it, I think, a day before. So otherwise, they would not have been able to come here. Also worked with Moonshot Missions to submit a sub-application to Cal OES for a potential hazard mitigation grant to retrofit or replace the 4 water tanks. So just for your information, some of the talk now is, can we retrofit the tank rather than replace the tank? Can we do a hodgepodge solution where we maybe retrofit 2 of them, replace 2 of them? So engineers are looking into these options for cost savings potential. Met with Cal Poly Humboldt engineering students also and professors as they toured Shelter Cove to begin their capstone projects. So I've been working with them on their requests for information. They're going to be doing 4 free feasibility studies, 1 energy-related microgrid study, which will be solar panels and EV chargers here at this Fire Hall Community Center and possibly at the clubhouse. And there's going to be a water treatment plant study, potential replacement of the water treatment plant, and a couple of wastewater treatment plant studies, one on biosolids and one on reviving our reclaimed water system for the golf course irrigation. I also spent a great deal of time on the phone with our cell phone service provider to upgrade a couple district cell phones and review our plans. Rode along with the electric crew to address service connection questions at our residence. I attended numerous meetings with staff and community members on various topics, including the regular monthly board and Parks and Rec committee meetings. And I worked with staff on multiple district job postings. There are 3 openings out right now. I'm going to move over to Power Generation and Distribution Department.
Chris?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So one of the things, I actually spoke with the Humboldt Bay Services District on their water tank replacements, and what they did a retrofit, and rather than a replacement, even though a replacement ultimately would have been a better solution and would have been cheaper, but because of the way the grant was written, they were kind of tied into doing a retrofit. So that's something to be aware of, and I can also give you the contact's name, and if we do end up going the retrofit route, maybe we can have a conversation with them about some of their experiences.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that the 2 engineers that visited Shelter Cove, they looked at the tanks and they saw that there was no concrete pad underneath the tank, and they figured that would immediately nix out the retrofit option, but we'll cross that bridge real soon.
Okay, great. Yeah,
Okay. And yeah, you're right. I think the grant is leaning like heavily towards retrofit. They want you to retrofit versus replace, and due to cost, it's cheaper to do that.
Yeah, like I said, her experience was that wasn't the case. Ultimately, when they ended up trying to do the retrofit, so being able to have flexibility in the grant, I think is
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Well, any other questions on that before I move to power generation? Okay. So I'm going to kind of read John's provided report here. They replaced fan belts on generator 2 at the generator plant, adjusted the fan shroud on generator 2 and retightened bolts. There was a planned outage on Seaview where they repositioned the transformer for a new customer hookup. Customer service call on Wolverine Way, which is what I attended. They went to Corning to pick up the new work truck and they took it to Medford to get built. I'd have to ask details there. There was a planned outage at the water plant to replace electrical safety infrastructure. They troubleshot the backup generator here at the Fire Hall Community Center after it didn't start up during a cove-wide outage. And customer service disconnected on Seafoam to coordinate grant tree work. And they took the old line truck to Fortuna for repairs. They were called in for a customer outage on Redwood Road. And there were a total of 5 outages on the tie line. The generators ran for 17.7 hours with an estimated 761 gallons of fuel used during those outages. And the new line truck was delivered to Garberville and picked up and brought home. So any questions on that before I move to Parks and Rec? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for these planned outages, did those affect the service of the public in those areas?
Yes, in the immediate area of the outage, yeah.
Was the public notified prior to the planned outage?
Yes, we currently notify through phone calls from our office. In the future, with our software upgrade, there could be a potential automatic notification
Perfect.
process.
Good, yeah. that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure.
Mhm.
We're keeping folks informed from there. Thank you.
Chris, I've got just more like a general comment.
Yeah.
And it might even go back to strategic planning. But it would be really helpful, rather than having a report of what you've done, to have, part of the report of what you're going to do, and then how you've accomplished what you set out to do. I mean, I know emergency, services are a different beast. You can't plan ahead for that. But kind of strategically, you kind of know what you're gonna do before you do it. And the matrix would be that you actually accomplished it, or it has to be pushed over to a later date. I think that would be really helpful for me to know what you're gonna do and what you've accomplished.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. I'll move to Parks and Rec. Maybe there's some sort of component to what you just asked for in this with planning, and yeah, we'll see. I issued the notice inviting bids for the grant-funded sports court project, and just yesterday we issued an addenda for that notice. The deadline for prospective contractors to bid on the project is October 30th. I know we've had a couple of local contractors interested in it, so we had a bid walk, and one local contractor showed up there, and so we'll see how that project pencils out once the bids come in, or once we open the bids on the 30th. Also worked with mold inspection and remediation companies to address the community clubhouse, including receiving a second mold inspection and second quote for remediation. I also reached out to, after the last month's board meeting, reached out to the county health department for guidance, who directed me to contact the county code enforcement unit, which I thought was interesting. So I reached out to code enforcement, and they got back to me with a very curt one-sentence reply, which basically cited our mold reports. They said the mold reports indicate a moderate health hazard. The issue should be addressed promptly. So right now, I'm working with staff to prevent indoor dampness, water intrusion, and any other source of potential fungal growth in the short term before implementing a more long-term fix next fiscal year where we can budget a greater repair of the building. Right now, we have in-house, we purchased a commercial dehumidifier, which also filters mold. I see in the packet for it. And it's been at the wastewater plant, not utilized since it was purchased in 2021, 2022 fiscal year for about $8,700. So we could move that unit over to the clubhouse. And then we're also looking at other potential air purifying equipment for smaller rooms downstairs. So we're looking into options here. Also worked with the manufacturer of the golf course kiosk machine and the district's bank to upgrade the device for internet-based credit card transactions versus the outdated phone line connection, which is still active. I can't remember, but he's coming within the next couple of weeks, I think, to finish that conversion. And then staff also fixed a trip hazard going into the entrance of the community's clubhouse. So that completes the Parks and Rec report. Any questions before we move on to?
Just in regards to the dehumidifier, I know we discussed this. It's a very large piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And just to be aware that it, if we do leave it running and stuff, it could potentially, the power usage could get more expensive than the actual mold mitigation that was presented to the board. So we just wouldn't really see it because it's district power, but it is what taxpayers are paying.
We can put it on a timer if we got events coming up, turning on part of the events or something.
Yeah, I can quickly share. I mean, that's a kind of the information on this unit. It's pretty large. It's almost 4 feet long. It's a really big, large rectangle. But there is potential location for this unit. And yeah, we wouldn't operate it 24/7. But it does filtration, removes more harmful contaminants from the air, such as mold, bacteria, and virus. So it's exactly what we're kind of looking for.
What was the original reason for this purchase? Is it some sort of backup to something else? I mean, I would hate for us to have something that we had purchased that was supposedly had another function?
I believe the original purpose of purchasing that was to help dry out the biosolids in the sludge drying building at the wastewater plant, but it was deemed an infeasible process.
Okay, so it's not, I just
And-
want to make sure we're not
yeah,
getting backup from
yeah.
some other system. or something.
And since then, they've actually modified that building, and they're using a different unit, different device in that building, so it's.
I would say my comment's gonna be one that we need a cohesive plan. I hate to see us keep going, but I do believe that the fire, especially when it's taking hold and everything else, it's a necessity, but we need to really have a cohesive plan to make this thing work for us.
Yeah, and the community is also looking into that with the general manager. You will have your offline.
All right, we'll move on to admin. Yep.
All right. Well, in September, the phone lines were the phone lines were very busy with the abatement notices that were sent out by the fire department. So we handled many questions and assisted with multiple signups for the program. I also compiled 3 years of data on energy consumption for 4 sites for the capstone students. The 4 sites included the water treatment plant, West Tank, Dick Tank, and John Tank. We developed a new job application form, and that is now on our website that was in preparation for the 3 job openings that are currently vacant. That is those 3 positions being the water and wastewater treatment operator, a general laborer, and an accounting administrator. So these jobs are open, they're posted. We're keeping 2 of them open for 30 days, and the wastewater treatment operator is open until filled. I met with our new billing software company to discuss more details and ask and answer questions. Completed an application for the payment processor of the golf kiosk. The kiosk manager forgot to send this when the upgraded parts were ordered. So when the installer arrived, we did not have the banking information. He needed to get us connected into the payment processor, which resulted in a delay in completing the upgrade. The installer will be back to complete the upgrade later this month. We also received notification that WAPA will no longer be accepting checks as a form of payment for their bills. Instead, they're requiring either EFT, ACH, or wire transfers. Wire transfers are expensive, so this necessitated setting up the ability to complete ACH payments. This turned into a complicated procedure with us having a public funds account. After much back and forth, a pathway forward was determined. To do direct pay, the district will receive a fob that generates a new code every 60 seconds that is used to complete an ACH transaction. And then also, administration processed 4 applications for service. Those are for existing connections, which means either somebody bought a house or a renter moved to a different location.
Okay, so those aren't new connections, those are already, okay.
Okay, Travis?
Okay, so for the month of September for water and wastewater, the sensor for the flocculation tank at the water treatment plant was troubleshooted, fixed, and returned to service. It was turning off the plant right around 4:45 every day in the evening. So that's fixed and all good now. The staff had moved all the dirt, not all the dirt, but the majority of the dirt that was being an obstacle for driving, and the county didn't like. Basically from the pole yard over to the fitness trail area. Right now, Anthony and the electrical crew have repaired pretty much 70–80% of the culvert failure off the fitness trail. We had mains exposed, and it was a big issue and not anymore. So that's really good before all the rains, all the problems that are going to be coming with that. The salt clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant was drain cleaned and returned to service. Biosolids twice were hauled from the wastewater treatment plant to Recology fortunate there. We found the dam completely not filled. The first chute, the board was completely broken in half, so we had staff build another one. And we're looking at other options, maybe some type of mechanical dam in the future that won't be so involved. Sewer lift station 9, pump 1 has had issues. Its starter coil went bad. We were able to troubleshoot it, replace it, and return to service. We have 3 more starter coils ordered for any other issues in the future for other lift stations. We had an issue with W1's well water meter, the GPM, cubic foot output. It wasn't recording. We figured that out. There was rocks and debris stuck, and it's a mutating disc. We were able to clean that out. Now we're getting GPM, cubic foot counts. Construction completed on the W2 well house. Anthony Garrett pretty much took that one on himself with the help of the electrical crew, but he pretty much took that on and did a great job. Employee staff was sent to the DMV for a physical for a CDL license. Ox ditches were greased at the wastewater treatment plant. As Chris said, the on-call cell phone was upgraded. The filter room at the wastewater treatment plant was organized and clean. We had 2 state inspections at the end of September and beginning of October. So we had the head of the State Water Resource Control Board, Zach Chandler, come. He did a whole inspection of our water treatment plant, every tank, well, PRV station. His opinion is that we are one of the more proactive and looking into the future out of 50 agencies that he represents. So we got a 8++ on the inspection. So that was really good news. Our 1, 2, 3 TCPs, potable water sampling, was completed and well under the MCLs. If anybody wants to know what that is, they're typically synthetic chemicals. They're used for cleaning, degreasing agents, and paint solvents, which we don't have an issue with. We had a ball valve replacement at the wastewater treatment plant replaced. We've been continuing flushing W3 well. Today and tomorrow we'll be also flushing and doing samples. Hopefully we'll be doing it in November and multiple times just to see what we get here. Pampas grass removal around wastewater treatment plant. Hoping that everybody will get involved in their own personal residence with this one. It's a highly invasive plant and it actually erodes the plants. It doesn't help it. So when you see those big old tall pampas grasses, maybe try to read that. Staff member, it was me, went to the WQI grade 3 exam prep class down in Elk Grove. November 13th, I'll be going down and take the test. And then we also had the wastewater treatment plant ox ditch curb concrete patch repaired. And again, Zach Chandler came and we got an A++.
Robin, sorry, I have a question. Our lift stations, how many lift stations do we have?
We have 8 lift stations.
8 lift stations. Do we have a regular maintenance schedule for those, for the cleaning of those or rebuilding of those pumps?
So Joe Mendez used to do that. Right now, we just contacted Gorman Rump, and there's a class that we're going to send Anthony Garrett to. He's taking on pretty much the role that Joe did for weekly, monthly checks. We've also are trying to schedule training with Steve Fox to train Joe Mendez, but he wants to send Anthony down to Gorman Rump first.
Okay.
So he's, I talked to him about it about 3 weeks, a month ago. He's very driven, and excited to take it on. He went and contacted Steve. He's a go-getter, great guy, and pretty much in charge of a water hookup as we speak, and led the whole well too.
So in the event of a, say, catastrophic failure of more than one of those lift stations, are we prepared, or we have equipment to rebuild those?
Yes, yes. Frank and I are also able to work on them. Yeah, we're on it. If we have any issue, we're doing checks like lift station 9, we got the coils, ordered 3 extras for backup.
I only asked this question because when I was working, they would send me out to take care of all the lift stations, and it was a horrible, horrible job breaking out the worm gears and all that. And it was almost nightly I was out there doing that. I know it's, if they do go down, it's catastrophic. So that's why I asked the question.
Anthony's extremely mechanical. He ripped apart a RAS pump. Is just seeing him get and work on it is pretty incredible.
Okay.
So we're lucky to have him.
Thank you.
I do have one question. With the culvert repair that was done, is that gonna be something that will be getting reimbursed with labor from the county?
I'm gonna say no. That's basically Greenbelt. I don't know when that was a county road. Maybe back in 1965, but it's the fitness trail. So I don't think we're gonna get anything reimbursed from the county on that.
I have a couple of comments. We kind of skipped over the administration department stuff that started with Travis, but I just wanted to thank you, Jessica. I know that it's tough troubleshooting these things and trying to continue to kind of push through to get a solution that works for us. Yeah, that looks like you've done that a few times and taking comments from the public, so thank you very much for that. Travis, regarding the first shoot at Telegraph Creek Dam, is that damage as a result of the changes to the culvert that was made because it failed, and so, or is that separate from that issue?
It's completely separate. It's just it was a redwood board that broke in half.
Okay, so it wasn't because there was increased pressure or anything because of the way that the culvert had to change it to the street?
No, it was basically all the boards need to be replaced, and we're manually putting them in one by one, and that's where we're looking for a mechanical, just a crank or something, but it's been an issue since I've worked here. And we'll replace the boards every 6 months to a year, and they'll just fail. We have to take breaking bars to pop them out sometimes, and they get a little beat up from us working on them, not necessarily pressure at all.
Okay. Yeah, congratulations on doing exam prep. I've done a lot of exam prep courses, so hopefully you got something good out of it, and hopefully it'll be good.
Yep, studying 3 hours a day plus.
So I've got to ask you, since we're proactive and we get SMLAs or whatever on all our stuff, does you give an opinion about our infrastructure ever? Making, he's inspecting it, but we're proactive compared to other agencies, but does he give recommendations of what needs to be accomplished prior to other things are prioritized?
Yes, there's a whole little list I have. Downturn vents on our well vents. Nothing stands out that is really big though. They're all really minor little details. And right now we have vents on our wells, but they're not downturned. But yes, he does give several recommendations, and all of them are pretty minor.
Okay, so that being said, I think that wouldn't be a bad thing to include so that we can kind of strategically budget for it.
Okay.
All right. Nick?
All right, awesome. First off, I just want to say thank you to the folks that stuck around for the whole meeting. So you guys are the troopers of the community. Yeah, just again, I think Jeff hit it. We need more people at these meetings, so more people. You guys are the ambassadors. I know a lot of you folks have to go and try and explain to people what the board meetings are about, what you heard, That's not necessarily fair. I appreciate you guys doing it, but we do have a large community and a very opinionated community. And we see less than 30 people here regularly, a lot less, usually 5 or 6 by the end of the meeting. So hopefully this one's a shorter one today. And again, I appreciate you guys staying. For the board, anything that I put in my report, if you guys would like to see anything else, please let me know ahead of time. That's your report. I can change, edit, add, anything you guys need, more pictures, bigger font, anything like that. Anything you guys want, we can add to that so you guys get a better evaluation of how the fire department's doing or emergency services. I think one of the things I see in this community is a good and a bad thing, which is we take the basic services for granted. We're in the Lost Coast. If you go to Whale Gulch or out Kings Peak Road, the services that people have out there, whether it's power or water or fire services, is vastly different, right? Waking up in a storm and having to turn your generator on or go check your water pump. We don't have to do that in Shelter Cove. And so these guys and the other RID services need a little bit more credit with providing the basic services that we provide on a constant 24/7, every single day. You can wake up and flip your lights on. And in these reports, if you dive deep into them, you see the real lack of service interruptions that we have. And on the fire department side, one of the things that we take pride on is that people take advantage or take, as I said, no, I'm backtracking. People take it to calling 911 in the middle of the night. We just had to call at 2:45, that somebody's going to show up. That's not always the case across this county, right? And we're there in under 10 minutes a lot of the times, and that's from a dead sleep at 2:45 at night. We want to continue that. We don't want the community to have to think, whether or not you should call 911. We had another plane event. That's our 5th one in 2 years. I don't think there's any reason besides people are buying more airplanes in the general aviation world. The airplanes are getting older and more affordable, and we're getting a lot more pilots. So we're going to see an uptake. It's something that I took trainings on 5 years ago that we were warned about. It's just the general aviation becoming more affordable. Planes that were built in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s are still flying. You throw another coat of paint on them, and they're just as good, right? They have very good regulations, and people are checking them and doing the maintenance they need to do. But a lot of these planes that you might think are a 90s plane are really a 60s plane. And so we're going to continue to see that at our airport. Our airport's a destination airport. There was nothing unsafe or caused any of the accidents or, through the investigation we've had at our airport caused any of those. It's just more use that we're seeing. But also we're having more safety features with GPS and radios and seatbelts and other stuff. And we only had 1 fatality out of the 5 incidents that we had, which is extremely rare, and we're extremely fortunate for that. As far as the fire department, our response, September was really low, only 9 calls. We're usually 20 to 30. So 9 911s. Obviously, we're doing a lot of other stuff daily. As Jessica said, our biggest time crunch right now is the abatement process. We sent out almost 4,000 letters. We probably received 400 to 500 phone calls in 2 or 3 weeks, and a bunch more of other questions and stuff that we're answering, all divided out between office staff, fire department, and our trees partners for the grant. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. With that being said, we had some significant calls. I missed the last meeting because we had to respond to a major trauma. At the time, we weren't sure if that patient was going to make it. Right now, that patient is stable. I wanted to emphasize that specific call took everything this community has put into fire rescue EMS to save that patient. 100%. It's starting with us leaving the staff meeting, and the time frame that Jack was able to get there. Another call that somebody did have to come and report it, right? That is a dead zone in our community. I have no clue whether or not extensions of the tower is going to fix that area. However, that is a problem, and they did have to come report it to Maureen, who then came out and told me, I got Jack going, and the process worked to get us there in under 5 minutes. The ambulance that 2 boards ago approved, going on 3 years now to get us on the waiting list to get that ambulance in service as quickly as possible. I wish Dave was still here because he was one of the big proponents of that ambulance. That creative budgeting and being ahead of the game on it got us to get that ambulance in service in June, and we've already had multiple lives saved in that new ambulance. I was on that call, Jack was on that call. We had 4 EMTs working on the patient, and then at one time we had 4 EMTs, 2 paramedics, and 2 flight nurses all in the back of our ambulance because we got a larger ambulance that we could work and have all those people. Every single one of us was doing something to save that patient. The ambulance was covered in blood, every corner of it. It took us an hour to decon it. However, that patient is stable and on the mend right now. Obviously, it was a traumatic injury. But it went through every single step, and a lot of the public doesn't understand our success comes from them paying their fire tax and then the board approving our budgets and our projects that we need. And that all comes together. It was the same thing with the jet ski 2 years ago. Our jet ski broke. We came for an emergency funding request. They granted it. It took us a year to get the jet ski, and we had a rescue within 3 months of getting that jet ski. So again, thank you to the fire department, for the community for supporting us on that. We don't always see those stories come full circle to where we can say, hey, our planning, our projects went to actually saving a life. So that was a big deal for us last month. Still having a problem with people trying to call our non-emergency line to report 911s or board members or firefighters direct. So please, while you guys are doing your liaison work with the people that aren't here, tell them to call 911. We have a really good type 1 911 system in Fortuna. They get all the 911s, and it's our quickest route to get our firefighters going. So that's my one public service announcement. We have to continue to just call 911 direct. Don't waste time calling anything else. Facebook isn't a good way of dispatching us. It has to be through 911. You'd be surprised how many comments we get of planes down or emergencies on Facebook because people don't want to call 911. It's not scary. That's their job. There's no charge to it. Some of the other exciting things going into September into October. Fire season for us, our main threat is pretty much done, right? We got some good season-ending rains. There is still little threats to where your neighbor's house has a small fire, can impact your house. I don't want to say the fire threat is totally gone. However, burn season's been opened up as of Monday. There will be outdoor burning, so if you guys see smoke, it might be a controlled burn. I don't care if you call 911. That's what Jack and I do. We go and see if it's a safe controlled fire or if it's a vegetation fire. We dodged another bullet this year. We really never got the seasonal temperatures and the dryness that we get. Historically, our winds weren't too bad during the summer this year. That is our number one threat to the community via our FEMA hazard assessment is wildfire, right? It's our biggest threat, it's gonna wipe out the whole community or large chunks of it. All of our infrastructure is at risk. That's why we put so much emphasis into the wildfire mitigation through our grants and our department planning and apparatus that we have. The next one is actually winter weather events. So that's what affects our infrastructure. It can affect your homes. We have seen that recently of large wind events, knocking trees on the homes, destroying our power lines, eroding our water pipes, which can affect the sewers. So working on that as like a new focus for the fire department on how do we prepare, develop, and harden our infrastructure for winter events as well as the wildfire season. It kind of makes it a year-round thing for us, as well as supporting our OES partners. Last year, we declined a strike team to go to Southern California for the Palisades fire. This year, we answered 3 different assignments to 4 assignments to 3 different fires through OES, and a lot of those were relatively local. The furthest we went was San Luis Obispo for the Gifford incident. So that process and that program, we are fully 100% reimbursed, plus a 15% admin rate through OES. OES is our liaison to CAL FIRE, the Forest Service, so they do all the negotiations, they do the billing. It's a really, really good system for us. And then we get that check in the mail in hopefully 3 to 6 months. And so there is a time lag to where we have to put up the money to pay our firefighters and to pay the equipment for maintenance and other things, and then we get reimbursed. What we're seeing now, again, going back to government shutdown, is we're going to see those repayments delayed. And so we talk about reserves and other things. That's where the fire department really hurts with our reserves. Which one is that? It sounds like our clock up there is off.
Great shakeout.
Right? Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Speaking of emergency events, the Great Shakeout drill, we are in a hazard area for earthquakes as well. We lived through some major earthquakes, preparing your home, having that plan to get on the tables. For the drill, everybody's supposed to get on the table, but we don't have tables for everybody, so we won't do that. Yeah, having that plan, it's only a matter of time before we have one of those large 7+ closer to Shelter Cove. We were protected. And so, yeah, again, having the plan for the earthquakes, our infrastructure is at risk from earthquakes due to its age. Everybody in California is in the same boat with that right now. It's something that we will have to adapt to. We're planning on it. CERT team has filters to provide drinking water and other things in the event that we have a major earthquake disrupts our drinking water. Hopefully, we don't have to deal with that. Going back to the OES thing, we get reimbursed for that. Our goal was $350,000. Last year, we were at $320,000. we're over 370, almost 380 this year already. So we're excited about hitting our goal. We also had no damage to any of our apparatus and no injuries to our firefighters. So that's kind of higher level goals for us. We won't see those reimbursements coming in until probably another couple months, and that's probably going to be delayed with the government shutdown. So moving on to our grants, again, we're going to do our phase 2. You guys will see that in the next action item about the abatements. This USDA grant is really rocking and rolling right now. And unfortunately, we're in our second government shutdown since I've been in charge of this grant, and we can't get reimbursed. I can't get any emails back from the folks who do that. We have about $170,000 of contracts out right now. We have $50,000 due, and we're working on another 7 $300,000 contracts. So if we can't get reimbursed through the government, it makes it really hard. We're going to have to do work stops on that project. So the last one happened, it was about 2 weeks. This one can go a lot longer. I'm still working on with the USDA rep if we can get a hold of them, but at some point I might be asking the board for more legislative report or help to say, hey, this is affecting our grants in a letter or something like that. I took care of the last one through Senator McGuire and Congressman Huffman. That was when the transition of the administrations happened and they shut down all the grants. This one is bipartisan, so it's on both sides. We need support on that. There's, we can blame both sides on it, but what it comes down to is it is affecting our community through the funding that we get. And a lot of the state grants are also federally backed as well. So as we look at these grants going into the future, this is going to be a regular thing. The district really needs to look at our time frame and our planning, and can we support these large term grants? Because we're putting more out in our grant funding, our contractors, than the RID usually spends on our personnel and our staffing. So it puts more work on Tony in the office, and then we just have to carry these. So the first time it happened, we used our ambulance savings to pay off our contractors until we get reimbursed. If it's only a couple weeks, it's not a big deal, but when we're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars over months and months and months, it's something that we can't do. So within our contract, it does say that if there is some government shutdown or the funds aren't available to us, we can stop work, but then we're affecting our local contractors who are family members and people in our community. And that's something that I have a hard time doing because they got to pay bills. And last time it happened, a kid was trying to buy a house on one of the tree crews, and he was calling to see when the money's coming, right? I had to tell him, I don't know, because it's way above my pay grade with the government. So we're going to do what we can to use our reserves and be creative to get the money out that we're due. However, we do have to have some sort of political support in our area to say, hey, this is affecting our region, whatever's going on in Washington, right? And it's not just us. MRC, there's a bunch of other grants. We just got another USDA grant for Southern Humboldt on the fire side that could be affected. This is going to keep happening throughout the next 4 years or longer. So, other than that, very excited about the grants. We already have 300 plus homes treated out of our 580,000 or 80 goal, and we're just now starting our 3,000 lot vacant lot project, which is a huge workload, but it's what this community needs to be safe. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Our project wise, you guys can see it in the Chiefs report. Our projects are starting to get done, which is exciting. A lot of them are long-term projects. The 10 type 6s we were building for our mutual aid partners are starting to get delivered. Even though we're not getting one of those trucks directly, it adds 10 more engines to our local area that can come assist Shelter Cove when we need them. And that's a huge thing, because I have no room for 10 extra engines, even if we could take them. But supporting our mutual aid partners to that is really great. It's something that we've been trying to do for a long time. As far as the ongoing projects, the big one we still have is finishing up our rescue bay and completing our grants. And we have a lot of money on the grants, and we're looking at some more going forward that are less fuel reduction and more infrastructure improvement, including this building, which is another one that gets overlooked. But underneath all the nice red paint and facade is something that needs help. And we saw with our pipes are starting to get corroded and starting to get leaking, and our roof is having some issues. So we do need to look at that overall infrastructure that, again, goes back to the pickleball conversation. We have a lot more large projects this community is going to have to work together and be civil and make tough decisions on to be able to afford the infrastructure that we need all around the community, not just in the parks and rec or the wastewater, but even the fire department and our other buildings that we need. And again, it's statewide. Everything that was built in the 60s and 70s is needed to be replaced at this point, and the money's not there. Everything is costing 200% more. It's something that on the fire department, we're also dealing with that. So.
Nick, I got a question.
Yeah.
The aircraft incident, was there any damage to the runway?
There is some minor damage to the runway, and that is something that we discussed. the GMI have discussed too, and it's something that will probably come to the board at some point, is recovery for both the time that we put into that and for the damage that does add up over time. You know, that's our second one that had a prompt strike, and just a single prompt strike is not putting a ton of damage into the airport, but now we've had a couple of those could potentially chip out, and we need to look at cost recovery.
With the failure of the landing gear, did that put notches in the?
Less of the landing gear and more of the prompt strike.
The prompt strike.
Yeah, and it's it's about a 30-foot section of prompt strike.
I'm sure he can claim on his insurance, maybe we can piggyback off of that and get paid for that.
Yeah, and that would be on the GM side.
Right.
Yeah, we're fire rescue until it becomes an airport manager issue.
Right.
Definitely something to look into.
Okay, yeah, because we're definitely gonna have to work on that.
Yeah.
And I have a question.
Absolutely.
Or I can answer. When you reference the reserves and us covering the bills,
Yeah.
so to speak, you're talking about the district reserves as a whole, not the fire department reserves.
It depends. The fire department reserves is the first go-to. That's why I'm actually looking at Tony right now for a $50,000 bill. But that is the way the reserves are set up for the fire department specifically is usually like our savings for apparatus or something else, right? It's usually already accounted for in a long-term plan. It's these unaccounted for reserves that we're gonna have a hard time meeting. And it's something that we can't keep up on our current fire tax and the additional $180,000+ we're getting through ODS. So.
Right, and then the more we pull up our reserves to cover those, it leaves the district in a precarious spot to be able to cover all the infrastructure, the payroll, and all of that too. So it's a delicate balance right now.
And that's with just the one grant we have. If Travis and Johnny both get 500 at $2 million grants, or we have the $50 million grant that we talked about a few years ago, that's where punching outside our weight class is great until we just can't support it, and we need to look into that long term of other options, bridge loans and other things.
Yeah.
And taxes, that is something that it's fire trucks are 200+% increases right now from 2009, and buildings and everything else. It's hard to do any kind of project for what we think it should cost, and then add us that we're at the end of the road, so we got to pay more for every material and anything that we do out here.
That's why when we get paid back from these deployments, saving that money will help us with the cost of that.
Yeah, absolutely. As much as we can, we're
Yeah.
gonna pay off that ambulance, and then we've got this project, and
Yeah.
so because we are behind, we're playing catch up. We will be up, for our tax reassessment in 2 years, and that's again gonna be another hard decision. Is how much can this community afford versus how much it's gonna cost to maintain what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask about the insurance stuff too, just generally the way that I've seen work is you inform your insurance company and then they look for indemnity from the individual's insurance. So that might be a place to start. And then Chief, I just wanted to thank you. My parents' house was in the warning zone down in San Luis Obispo County. They live early there in the county, the house I grew up in. So thank you to you and your folks for showing up and keeping that contained.
Absolutely. Yeah, we hope it's gonna be there to come up and help us one day. And that's kind of how the mutual aid process works.
Lucy, thank you for what you do and are doing for our community, especially on grants. I think it's just concerning though on the reserve that you don't know more about the fire department and how the relationship from Grid's reserves and the fire department reserve, especially now, because the discussion probably should have been taking place prior to us voting on having those reserve dropped or reduced, where I'm always thinking more that the reserves are for RID and they're reserved for really the community, but for fire as well. And right now is not the time to be dropping the reserves based on information that you're providing.
Yeah, so it goes, there's a couple of different ways to look at that. One is if a district is fortunate enough to have profits, that they can go towards, obviously we're nonprofit, but if we're gonna have a surplus that we can put towards reserves, that doesn't affect our operations and the base operations that we need to maintain. And that goes back with Travis and John and anything else. If we're gonna have large scale capital improvements that we need to do to maintain our operations, provide water, power, sewer, and fire, then we need to spend that money. Right? Tom Allman, that was here, great sheriff, Mendocino sheriff, our local, he told me public safety funds can't do anything for anybody in the bank. right? I took that to heart as we rebuilt our department, but you do have to have some of that backup funds for emergencies and stuff like that. My question to the board would be, for staff, is to come up with examples of what we use those reserves for, right? And not just keeping our reserves high and basing it on an amount, right? Because a lot of times it's a percentage amount, right? How much of our total operating costs do we have in reserve? And that's what most policies are based on, right? What are these scenarios out there? Like I just brought one up, right? Grant funding doesn't come through and we're already obligated for the contractors, right? Those are type of things, right? Emergency ambulances breakdown, right? Our ambulance, the last ambulance that we got was probably $80,000, right? This one was almost 300. And so as things are increasing, but our tax rates are staying the same. Those are the kind of things where it's easy for you guys or for staff to say, hey, bring us back up to 100% reserve or 200% reserve. And then the fire department staff, we can't get the equipment for capital improvements because we need to maintain that reserve. As our surplus and everything else goes up, then that conversation can change. And so it's really important to have that conversation with staff to say, hey, what do you guys need, and are you getting it? And then for us to be fiscally responsible and saying, hey, we don't need everything. We should have a justification for every truck, every piece of equipment, anything that we have. For the fire department, our justification normally is we don't have anybody else coming with it, right? We don't have another state-of-the-art fire truck. All the departments around us are less fortunate right now. And so we need these locally to be able to have that, right? If our station falls down tomorrow, well, we need something built up to where we can maintain and keep these apparatus that we already supported. So usually there's a justification to spend the money. It just has to be good, and whatever superintendent that's providing the recommendations for you guys better be able to justify that and stand behind it. If we can get a little bit more money out of our equipment, our trucks, that's one thing. But if we have a failure especially on an emergency call, where was that decision justified? And what did we do to that? Because I know Jack can speak to it. We ran 1980s trucks for a long time. And both of us have crawled underneath them and pounded on the starters with hammers, and we used to have an ocean rescue hammer, right? That was one of our main things. It was just get the brakes freed on all the trucks. And we had a lot of fatalities. And when we went in and I found, the fire department had almost $300,000 reserve when I took over that we really didn't know about. We knew it was there. It was in the county account. We were told no by a previous GM to buy apparatus, and I went and talked to Tony. And she's like, yeah, you guys have this amount of money in here, and it changed the conversation, right? And so I 100% agree with you. Knowing the reserves, knowing what we have, we did ask that they go into the budget, so now that it's transparent what the county accounts are, and being able to utilize that. One day the fire department might have a higher reserve than the power guys, and if it's legal to do so, and there are some laws on how we use our funds, I would recommend that we really look into it deep to get that money out there to have the services provided versus it sitting in an account. But I do see the validity of having those backup reserves set to it at a certain standard, as long as it isn't affecting operations. And that's very easy to do.
Well, let's say I have to agree 100% with what you just said. Throws a little bit more work on the Chris, because I think that the reserve is it's like the Band-Aid fund. However, we also need to be able to use those reserves for certain purposes. So I agree with what you're saying. I don't know that we can have enough reserve because we have so much that needs to be done. So if we want to have that conversation, Chris, as far as the reserves and where they're going, so that allows us to increase those reserves, knowing that they can be used. I'm all for it.
Yeah, that was definitely something that was addressed at this, the training, is how important it is to have the reserves identified on what we're going to be using them for. So it's not just looking like a lump sum that we have all this money. There are actually other issues that need to be addressed. One last comment, it's not in your report, but I don't want to get into the weeds on it at this meeting, but I would like to see, I'm hearing rumors or whatnot, just something about a helicopter pad on Willow Glen. And so I do think that that's an issue that should be coming before the board at some point, clarification on how that's coming to pass or what's going on with that. It's not in the report, so I don't know how, and we can get on it, but I
can speak to that.
I do want that to be,
Yeah, it's an emergency LZ. We've always had it at that location. We are looking at, right now, the wires that go through there were a problem. And so I made an emergency expense to put, I think, $700 to put up the the balls that you guys see on power line wires to make them visible for the helicopters. Rawhide used to be our go-to emergency LZ, right? We have multiple emergency LZs, right? And so Willow Glen was always like our backup, like, can we get into there? Since it's been opened up for almost 10 years, right? There was one tree that was cut down, but CAL FIRE was able to land there with the Huey. We're not sure with the Blackhawk, even with their improvements, if they can get the Blackhawk in there. It's a larger LZ, less of them hitting things and more of them damaging infrastructure because of the rotor wash. The rotor wash is significant on that helicopter. And then we had issues with our Cougar LZ. And so the Cougar Road LZ, it wasn't flat enough for the medical helicopter. The medical helicopter can get into the Willow Glen LZ. And as I said, they built a house at Rawhide, which used to be a cul-de-sac. It's an open road, so it's not super kosher, but it was a dead-end road at that point. But yeah, those were our three that we can do, including Kings Peak and Queens Peak, where always our backup LZs, but they were never improved LZs. So the idea to improve an LZ is something that hasn't came to the actual project idea yet.
Okay. And so those LZs were identified about roughly how many years ago?
Oh man, I would say over 10. It was back when Sal was around that we've had any flat spot that we can land a helicopter is a backup LZ.
Okay.
Right.
So
Those
it
improved LZ.
doesn't necessarily keep that location from being used for other.
Absolutely
potential
nothing at
other-
all. No, we can land a helicopter in an emergency situation anywhere we want. They can land them on 5-lane highways. So.
Yeah, I had a little bit of concerns with that road, and then also, and getting the that Willow Glen Road, it's just kind of funky. It's not very well maintained, so I was just envisioning like all this emergency personnel going in and making that tight corner and
Yeah, no,
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it has already been labeled as that, as such for quite a while. But definitely getting the public narrative out there, the benefit to the community, but there is a little bit of a narrative out there that, oh, this is just happening, nobody knows about it, so to speak. So I wanted
Yeah, there's no money being put towards it other than the power line. The public safety balls, so the helicopters can see the power lines. And again, our airport is our primary LZ. It's when the fog comes in, we're trying to maximize any spot that we can land a helicopter at this point. So, yeah, our new project policy, if we start improving that beyond, the balls are way under the threshold for that. Any more expenses that can make that a full project under the policy, you guys will get a full project report on that. One day it would be nice to have that, to be able to have a actually improved LZ that we can get the Blackhawk in. It's already been spec'd out, and we'll see where that funding comes. As of right now, there's no budget for that.
Take it in.
Yeah, no problem.
So, I'm gonna go to public comment on anything that we discussed, these procedures or anything. Anyone have any comments?
You raised a concern of everybody is the fires.
Yeah.
So my question is, do we have insurance that'll cover all our spots? Do we have a plan to rebuild certain things first? Because we're not gonna rebuild when there's no infrastructure. So it's your infrastructure that we need to have the water to build if there is fire damage. So that's if there is a plan.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? That being said, we're gonna move on to action items. Action item number 1. Consider updated policy 38, public facilities use and rental, first reading.
All right, yeah. Staff, thanks, Jessica and Maureen have been working a lot on this policy. This is the public facilities use and rental policy. Major updates in the revised policy include the addition of the fire hall meeting room where we're at, the salmon room at the clubhouse, which is the children's playroom, and the playground right here. The district's risk management insurance provider, GSRMA, has also provided updated insurance language, which we have included in the new policy. So attached is the policy with track changes enabled. Staff will work on updating the associated rental agreement form internally, which has a lot of the elements from the policy. And staff would like the board's input on the associated fees, which have not been revised in this first reading of the policy update. Staff would like the board to consider increasing the fees and to provide recommended amounts. As a reference, staff reviewed similar neighboring municipalities' fees. For example, the city of Fortuna charges at minimum $200 plus a $250 cleaning deposit for use of their parks. To rent the Monday Club in Fortuna, which is comparable to our community centers, the cost is at minimum $200 for 4 hours, or $400 for the full day, plus a $250 cleaning deposit or $500 deposit if you're serving or consuming alcohol. Fortuna also allows a 20% discount to registered nonprofit organization. McKinleyville Community Services District rents a similar sized community center, Azalea Hall, for $90 per hour or $332 for a half day, or $550 for a full day, plus a $100 deposit, and an additional charge of $19.50 per hour for use of the kitchen. McKinleyville also charges $58.25 for 4 hours use of their Pearson Park gazebo or Hiller Park picnic area. The Redwood Playhouse in Garberville charges between $10 to $25 per hour. And I did verify this with BLM. They do charge $50 for use of the Malcolms Park picnic area. So the recommendation is to review the changes in the policy and suggest further revisions to the policy and bring it back next month for second reading. I also want to add, we did add in the recently approved airport parking landing fees into this policy, and I also added in the golf course fees because they were actually never in a policy. So this is a good spot to put them in.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still relatively new here, so I don't have a whole lot on this topic. I just don't want to, and we have a lot of nonprofits that are here. We have a lot of people who rent out the clubhouse for small groups, and it's, and they're doing it to make a few bucks. And I believe we charge them a percentage, is that correct?
5%.
Yeah. Okay, and we're still gonna continue to do that.
Is that written directly in the policy? I do not recall.
I don't recall seeing it this way.
Yeah, it says 5%.
It is
Okay.
5%.
So that's up for your guys' debate on the fee consideration.
All right. And a lot of the nonprofits, we do give exemptions to throughout the year. I would like to at least try to continue that if we could, but it's up to the board to discuss this and hash this out, but something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time with the $30 per hour for a 2-hour minimum. My daughter goes to a dance class on Fridays, and there's 3 kids in there. Each of us pay, I think, $15 for a lesson, so it's like $45. So the teacher walks away with $15. I mean, I would hate to see, there's not much. There's not many classes in this area anyways, and I would hate to see like the clubhouse where you can teach, have that be like a hurdle for people, like, oh, what's the point? I feel like it is a community center. It should be open to the public. I know I see some of these other considerations, but those are really nice clubhouses or like area. I mean, the Fortuna one's huge. But I think 10 to 25, like what Redwood Playhouse, they also have a lot more kids there too. So it's like, I don't agree with the $30 per hour, 2-hour minimum. I think that maybe for like weddings and stuff, we should have, I do think that should be like bumped up. I don't know what it is. I'm not really like seeing it yet, but, oh, okay. Oh, non-residents. Okay, I see. I think that's like totally manageable. But I feel like, for yoga, it's like we just want that to be like open and used, and that's my opinion.
I would like to clarify on that. So in that instance, what happens when somebody is teaching a class at the clubhouse? They're required to pay a $100 cleaning deposit, which is good for the entire time of how long they keep continuing their classes. They're also required to provide their own insurance, which depending upon the risk factor, it changes the cost. But for example, for the AA class, they pay $40 or $50 a year to have insurance there. What the instructors are charged is 5%. So in the instance that you referred to, where she would be receiving $45 from you guys, she would actually owe us $2.25.
Okay, so then, but isn't with these new rates, it would be $30 as well?
I don't think that there was a change for that.
Yeah, that's just for public,
Oh, I thought it was like a private event.
no, yeah, it's not for the classes.
I think we should look at
Okay,
increasing
so the
for
classes
them.
would always still just be at the 5%.
Unless you guys decide to change it.
But I think the weddings and things like that that are high
Yeah.
budgeted events, we can get a few more bucks out of that to help with them, keeping the building up and dry.
No issue here.
Okay.
What's changing?
So I have a bunch of like little grammatical things I think, and maybe Chris, we can go over before we bring back another reading.
Yeah.
But structurally, we have on section 2, number 2, and number 3, it looks like you're charging more. So number 2, if I'm reading it correctly, is for Shelter Cove residents.
Mhm.
And number 2 is charging like a $50 flat fee for the hall, whereas number 3 is for non-residents and it's charging $30 per hour. So it looks like you're charging more to residents rather than non-residents. And I'm not sure if there was a policy decision behind that. I'd like to discuss it because my preference would be to charge less for residents and more for non-residents.
That would be a $30 per hour, 2-hour minimum, so it would be $60. I guess it'd be $10 more for the non-residents. But this is for a 4-hour long event, so it's $50 for 4 hours for Shelter Cove residents. And if a non-resident was going to be there for 4 hours, it would be 30 times 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, then I misunderstood because my impression was that it was a $50 fee per hour for a maximum of 4 hours, not just $50 for the whole 4 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, then I have a few more.
And I didn't change the fees in this revision here.
Why not just put $60 for the private event, 2-hour minimum? If they have to pay $30 for each hour, I mean, and they're gonna pay for the 2 hours.
But
for
if they-
sure, because it's a minimum, why not just put $60?
If they go up to 4 hours, so it can be up to $120, so it's $30.
$30 after the second hour? I don't know, it's a little confusing. to me. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
My comment would be that I'd like to see that the fees are reviewed annually. Because depending on how the economy is going and other issues that I can see that they being reviewed, not necessarily the whole policy, but the fees, so we can adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
Good for me. Anybody else have any?
So what if I guess my other question is, what if it's not a nonprofit? What if it was, say, you wanted to do like Lego play, like, for like rainy days? What would it call? I just wanted to open it up and have a bunch of kids that are playing like Legos. Which one would I fall underneath? Because I'm not charging the kids. I just want like the clubhouse open and do something.
That would be insurance. All for that.
Well, I get the insurance, yeah, I would definitely do the insurance and the cleaning deposit. And then,
Are you stating as a private individual or
mean, I guess I
the
would
or the
be.
playground or the
I mean,
group?
I guess it would be a private individual, but I'm just like imagining like it is like a community thing, Like it's like, oh, let's get all the kids together and, go to the clubhouse and like, during these rainy days that are coming up. I see it happen like at beginnings. It's so cool, all the kids bring your Legos, you just hang out. So I guess I'm just trying to think of like, oh, but if that came up, it's like, I couldn't charge anyone and then also, yeah, it just seems a little like, it's not like a clubhouse if we're always like trying to like, a lot of these kids.
So, yeah, sorry to interrupt, but that would fall under like that section 1 non-fee use of the facilities. So under that stipulation, use of the facilities by Shelter Cove residents for memorials or events that do not charge attendance, are open to all residents, are not solicitations of any kind, do not ask for donations, and are not fundraisers, and are no money changes hands. That would be a non-fee use of the facility. But yeah, insurance and a potential cleaning deposit. Yeah.
I mean, it's nice not to have
Mhm.
I'm gonna do that.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we just need to come up with like a nice, easy to read fee schedule.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything's in here apparently.
I think one of the issues we've had with the community center is that it is being used, but mostly by people who are not paying. And so we really do need to address that as far as like figuring out how to bring in more revenue sources. You know, it's not the best community center, but it is district infrastructure. For myself, what I'm looking at is the cleaning fee deposit. In my opinion, I guess this must be standard practice in other areas, but I would like to see maybe that we keep a portion of that cleaning fee deposit, because it always, even if people clean up after themselves, we're still having to go in and clean it to a professional. We try to clean it to a professional standard. And it just seems to me that we do need to be looking at how we can reduce the cost to the district while still maintaining affordability. So I'm wondering if maybe with a $100 cleaning fee deposit, if there's a portion of that we keep, that we're able to keep instead of returning the whole, maybe like it's $25 that we keep and they get 75 back or something like that. I personally, I would love to be able to raise the fees, but I do see it a valuable asset to our nonprofits and keeping it affordable in today's economy is important. But yet the maintenance and the cost of running the community center, those costs are rising. So we need to figure that out and still be able to be community minded. The cleaning deposit, I've always kind of had an issue with because we always have to go back and clean no matter what.
So does someone come in regularly clean the clubhouse?
So this is one issue that the district has always had is that we operate with a skeleton crew, right? We don't have all of these different employees on site. So with that said, currently, and I'll let Chris explain a little bit more on how that's operating with our current cleaner, but I know when I worked in the office and that was part of my duties is going down, is I would go down and clean it once a week. And then before and after every event. So if we had, and that was like if that was a pioneer meeting, or if it was just like an event. So sometimes you're cleaning about 3 to 4 times a week. Never really being given enough time to do the deep cleaning that's needed. And it's my understanding now that we've really cut back on the cleaning of the community center on a regular basis. They actually have like a once a week cleaning opportunity, but it's not going in after every event or after every class like it used to be. And those cleaning centers, in my opinion, need to be brought back. And so at some point, we need to find money in the budget to have a cleaner that comes in and cleans once a week and then before and after events. That's how, in a professional setting, we would be doing things.
I agree. Yeah.
So Chris, I have a couple of questions for you on the cleaning, or just I guess in general. What is is it possible for you to get us some numbers of how often it's used and how much it's brought in, how often we're charging for it, that sort of thing, so that we could get an idea of what we would be looking at in terms of, we've rented it out 30 times, and, that would effectively bring us this much in order to fund this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's information you have available, or maybe something you can bring back.
Yeah.
Second reading.
Yeah. Well, first, we do have a part-time staff member who works 4 hours a week to explicitly clean the clubhouse. Yeah, and at 4 hours per week, and we're pretty flexible on when she does it, working around events. So that works. Earlier in the board packet too, regarding the second question, we included clubhouse rentals now, and it's under the Parks and Recreation graph. showing you previous balance, monthly total, and fiscal year to date rental income on the clubhouse. Right now, we're at $460 of a anticipated $2,000 budget, or $2,000 income coming in per year. And I based that 2,000 on, I'll share, we did during the budget discussions, we did this graph. It might be kind of small on the screen. But this is the clubhouse rentals, and I only have 5 years of data here, and I don't remember where it ended up at the end of 24, 25, but you can see $1,180, $1,180 in 2019, 2020, zero in 2020, 2021. I think that was because of COVID. And then 2272 in fiscal year 21, 20. So it's right around $2,000. 23, 24, we got almost $3,000. So that's the income for the clubhouse that we have experienced in the last 5 years.
And
that's it.
do you have like an idea, and again, I don't want to create a ton of work out of this, but if you have the data to figure out who falls under which of these different categories and how that looks and how often we've kept a cleaning deposit and, and I know, if we have someone that's dedicated to 4 hours a week, I don't know if we have weekly events, but that seems like you should have enough time to do deep cleaning over a period of a couple of weeks, maybe a month.
Yeah, I can attest to that. It's square footage wise and and then the issues of that the materials used in the community center are not conducive to being able to easily deep clean and sanitize. When I was cleaning it, it was a minimum of 6 hours a week and that was, you're also talking about the refrigerator, you're talking about the oven, you're talking about all the other little things that are in there that need to be addressed on a regular basis. And right now, in my opinion, often they're not being addressed. And so then we're getting complaints about a moldy ice machine or whatnot. So,
Flies in it.
or flies in it. But 6 hours would be a good weekly to be able to do a good job on, even if you weren't just going in after every event. But yeah, 4 hours is not enough time to, in my opinion, to do a good job on that.
As a solo.
So it has a solo.
I've got a couple questions. Interesting. You started it.
Okay, I'm just gonna say really quick that, I mean, I think we could charge more if it looked nicer. It needs a paint job so bad in there. Like, if we could just do like a community, like, clean up the clubhouse day, like, I think that would be really, and just provided the paint, like, it needs to come so bad, it's disgusting. And then like just moving some of the stuff, like it's like no smoking, like it has not like a great vibe. And I think like if it was like presented a little bit just like more clean and just, then I think you could ask for way more from these like events.
Mm-hmm.
That would be that's my thing.
Are you volunteering?
Yeah, I would. I just painted the Garberville theater doors. I don't know if you've gone through town. They look so nice. Not to like toot my own horn, but I was like,
Yeah.
wow, it looks amazing on that side of town now. So I'm just like, yes, it needs a paint job.
Yeah, and I do believe that Code Connect is looking into being able to help organize something like that. But just to be clear, we can't just rely on volunteers and nonprofits to keep up on the maintenance of that building. We've done that in the past, and volunteer burnout is real, and it concerns and not really.
Yeah, but also just like get it done.
Yeah, I do want to also give a shout out to, I guess it was Mermaid Coastal Cleaning. They did do a volunteer deep clean of the clubhouse a few months ago or so. So that was a nice.
Do you know how long that took?
I don't know.
Oh, she said it in her email.
That was like 6 hours.
I think there was 2 people there, and I think 2 people at 6 hours.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally spent all that time in the kitchen and the floors.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. So first, wouldn't it be interesting to have it more task oriented? How long does it take to clean the ice maker, get the flies out? how long does it take to clean the refrigerator and make it more task oriented? And then we really wouldn't know what it's gonna take for the deep clean or a cleaning. And then again, justification of the cleaning deposit if it needs to be, something is kept longer. Or I mean, not given back. Deposit means you're gonna get it back if it's clean. Maybe we don't give it all back. Maybe they lose that 25% or whatever. The other question I have is, and I don't know that it hasn't, but when there's a paying customer and it's already in use by a non-paying customer, does the paying customer can't use it?
Whoever reserves it first gets it.
That might be an issue that we want to address because we don't want to, take money off the table. If we have somebody that's gonna pay for it.
The challenge with that is a lot of the fee-free rentals are for nonprofits who are using that as an opportunity to raise funds. So then we would be pushing aside somebody who wants to raise money in order for us to receive money.
Well, I think that's just how you structure it. I think that someone will pay a lot of money at trade to lose that money. And if it's a nonprofit, then maybe that's the perimeter of if a nonprofit does it to raise money, that's raising money for our community or whatever. So they are paying. So again, like I said, if someone comes up and wants to pay us a lot of money and it's like, well, it's on this day, well, you can't because this is, it's free Lego day. Maybe.
I agree with what Jeff's saying. I think, a lot of nonprofits know what their yearly events are going to be. So maybe when they don't book it up at the beginning of the year, we leave those weekends open for maybe like other events.
Those are mostly booked up, and you guys will have I believe it's either December or January. There's a whole spreadsheet of lists. We ask all of the nonprofits and regular users who don't pay to come up with their dates and their times, and we present that to the board, and the board approves those for the year. So we can't take those dates back after you've approved them.
Yeah, I
What's
mean,
going on?
there's certain events that we have to plan for and shop for, and you just bump us because someone wants to have a wedding. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I've had that, pretty close to happening with Veterans Day. When it takes 4 to 5 days of prep. And I've had and we're doing our 10th year this year under Code Connect. And I've had in the past, like 2 days before the event, oh, well, we had these people that are willing to pay. And it gets not necessarily, it's just stressful and adds more stress to an already.
Because yours is on a Thursday though, isn't it?
It's always on the Veterans Day, the 11th, whatever day that falls on. And so, even like this year, we do our best to help, work around paying customers, so to speak. I had somebody coming in on November 7th doing a gig there that people were gonna pay. But luckily their event is at night, so I should have most of the prep, that day's prep done. But if it was an all-day event, it would have been difficult for me to acquiesce to that.
Another thing is, is it even worth having the ice machine? Like, it sounds like it takes so much work to clean. Maybe for I could see I don't know. I'm just asking questions that are these things actually paying off? Are we charging people for the ice machine if it takes so much time to clean rather than just let them bring in their own ice? Which I don't know many event centers that have an ice machine, or you put a thing on it and charge them money for that. We need to think about what we are offering and do some cost accounting. Is this worth it? Because obviously we're only making $2,000 a year right now. That's not much. So it's what do we really need in there to open the space to people? What are people actually using? And if they're using the stove, well then let's charge them extra for that. But if they're, and I know but that does cost. There's gas. Do we pay for the gas?
Well, that's included in if they're renting a kitchen and they're renting.
I know, so we should account for those. there should be, yeah, I'm just saying, like, we really need to like be more thoughtful, I think, not just like, oh, and this is the new fee schedule. It's like, okay, like, what are they using? Like,
So your dance instructor who's using the heater?
no, she doesn't turn on the heater. It's in
So if you're
the.
having an holiday on a rainy day, it'd be Legos, we're letting you use that space for free, but you're using the heater, right? And that's gas, that's electricity, that's stuff.
Yeah.
So should we charge?
I don't know, we might actually need to know how much the Cove Community Clubhouse burns, like, so we can just like actually know what we're working with. When you say $30, if we're spending $400 a month on gas, that's not covering it, you know? So it's like, that's what I'm saying, is like, we need some cost accounting. We do need to know how much gas we use. We do need to know how much cleaning costs in order to actually raise these so we can make some money. We don't even know if we're making money. We just know we're bringing in $2,000. Like,
We're not making money.
yeah, I know, but we should be working with real numbers is what I'm saying. It's like, even if we know we're working at a loss, at least we know what we're spending.
I think that back to the money, and I can appreciate the nonprofits, whatever. But maybe we set aside, and I'm gonna assume that most wedding events or certain parties on the weekends. So maybe we have it so that they're available and then they get filled in at last minute if people are interested in it. Rather than, well, they book first, so, and by the way, I agree with you, book first, you get it, right? But on that being said, maybe we also open it up X number of weekends a month, and maybe more so in the spring, summer, or fall, whatever. I'm more on a brainstorming side, that we're not limiting what we can, when we can rent it, because in January, February, everyone submitted their time. Maybe we open it up so it is available these weekends for payment. And then if no one gets them, then we, I don't know, auction them off or fill in the void.
So what I think we're really looking at here is we need to look at real numbers for the year, what operating costs for that building. And then we need to look at our use fee increase and a possible non-refundable cleaning fee associated with use of the building. That's what we're looking at. So. Yeah.
With that energy use, the library needs to be taken into account, you know, into that.
The what?
equation, which they're not paying anything out.
The library.
The library, if they're using heat and propane, that's gonna be a little bit difficult to see the percentage on that.
And also, I wanted to stress that regarding pre-planned or, scheduling is the community clubhouse and right here, these are emergency evacuation centers for earthquake, fire, tsunami. So that would obviously take precedence if there was anything planned. Yeah.
One comment. Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, getting back into the text and a little bit separate from what we were talking about, there's a note about how there needs to be, if you're doing a bingo game, you need to have a Humboldt County bingo license. Is that expensive or difficult for folks to get?
Do you know? I don't.
I've never gone through the process, but it's required through Humboldt County.
It's not difficult, but it is an added cost to already. Usually the fundraisers are for people in need and whatnot like that, so it is just an added cost to
And that's a requirement by the county.
Mhm. Oh, there's a comment from Rebecca.
Okay, so are we all done on this?
Can you say that one more time, the direction to the staff that you just said? Just want to check that.
Oh, yeah, so for, we need to look at what hard numbers are for operating the clubhouse for the year. And then we'll make a decision, I guess, next month as an action item for final numbers. Before
That'd be
third
good.
reading. So we're looking at possible increase in use fees and non-refundable cleaning fees. Scheduling what? Yeah.
Events or.
The events are scheduled at the beginning of the year for the entire year for the nonprofit.
I understand that, what I'm saying, that could be adjusted.
Can you use your microphone, please?
How is
I
that
agree with
needed?
that, but that could be adjusted.
Adjusted for?
For a paying customer, or versus not leaving some dates open for, other events rather than filling all the events in January and February.
Well, we can discuss that next one.
Yeah, so, Jeff, if I understand correctly, you're looking for possibly a policy on the schedule where we leave like a weekend open every month so that if there's a paying customer, they can take that spot rather than filling like a whole month's worth of weekends up for nonprofits.
Yes. Thank you.
I mean, generally, there's one weekend a month that's planned out in the beginning of the year. So the other 3 weekends, 3 to 4 weekends are generally open for public use. Just for
Yeah,
clarification.
we'll take a look at that. All right, so we clear?
There was one comment too online. Rebecca, the yoga instructor, she says she cleans the floor, takes her 1 hour before her practice with Dead Man's Yoga. She can go fast, but it's not a thorough job. The mop water is always black. So just providing that information.
Cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go to public comment then. Everybody's good? Public comments.
I guess I have one more point of clarification in that there are different rates for when people are using the kitchen versus when they're not. So that is to take into account for the extra gas consumption and whatnot. So it is a higher rate if you're using the kitchen.
Good morning. Hello, actually, as someone who used to use the community center for classes, actually before 2009, you could not rent the community center hourly. You could only do it as a day use fee. And actually in 2009, when I wanted to start my martial arts studio, I came and talked to the board and they actually instituted that hourly fee at that point. I first off, just want to get clarification. So is it now just a 5%, only a 5% of people's receipts?
Yes, I believe we modified that a few years ago where the board agreed that the hourly rate was too high for the classes and like if people didn't show up, they still had the building technically rented, but they weren't making any money, that the instructors were losing money. And that and I believe the board, and maybe you're on here, really looked at it as these instructors bringing quality of life to the community. And so that's when the percentage of their intake, their fee intake came into play. So that's where 5% came in, and not doing the hourly rate for instructors and classes.
Well, I would suggest to the board, I know for myself, I paid $15 an hour, regardless of students. So I myself was paying $120 to $150 a month to RID. So I myself was paying $1,500 a year to use the community center. Sometimes I had students, sometimes I didn't. I never really made money. Any time that I did make money, I just reinvested it in equipment and stuff. So, I mean, I think people, if you've got 3 students and you're making $30, well, maybe try and advertise more and get some more students. That's what I had to do. No matter, if you have 5 students or you have 10 students, as was said, you're still using the heat, still using the lights. I understand to the yoga teacher as far as doing the cleaning. I did the same thing. I went in an hour before class. There were needles on the floor from the sewing group and everything else beforehand. So yeah, I swept that floor every day because I had kids barefoot all over that place. So I think you really need to look into actually creating, a flat rate for that, be $10, $15 an hour. I think that's fair. As a business, people are doing classes in order to try and make some money. You're not making a lot of money, but it's still a business. That's an expense of doing business. Hopefully you're making a profit. If you're not, you need to reevaluate how you're doing your business and whether it's, worthwhile or not. So yeah, just my opinion.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anybody else?
There was a raised hand online. Pam Brenner, did you want to make a comment? No? Okay. No comment from Pam Brenner? Okay, I guess not.
Okay, that being said, then we'll, no action taken. We'll do the second reading next month, or do we have to take action, Jessica?
Yeah, we should actually, make a motion to bring it back for a second reading, or to approve the first reading and bring back for a second reading.
Well, we would just need to bring it back for second reading with, modifications.
Mhm.
Okay. Motion?
So I'd like to make a motion to bring this back for a second reading with modifications.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Wes Bonheim.
Aye.
Tosh Tristan Sanders. Mike Solori.
Aye.
Jeff Hildreth.
Carries. Okay.
Might be your cell
All right.
phone.
Let's move on to action item number 2. Ordinance number 63, an ordinance, sorry. An ordinance describing the procedure of abatement of conditions constituting a public nuisance upon private property and recovering the expense of such abatement. First round update and property owner objections. And this is Chris or Nick?
Nick, you got this one?
Yeah, unless you want it.
No.
Awesome. So yeah, this one is gonna be, some house cleaning and some ongoing things with our ordinance and our USDA grant process. So as we moved into the vacant lot and property phase of the USDA grant, I just want to remind the public that we have just over $3 million for the vacant lots. So we were funded to clear and improve, I'll take it back, clear is misconstrued, treat to the public safety minimums within ordinance 63, right? We use that interchangeably. I know both Jack and I have been called out for saying clear. We're not clear cutting anybody's property. We're not clearing properties. We have a minimum standard as specified in our local ordinance and the state legislated to the weed abatement in the California district, fire district law, right? So that's where a lot of this legal backing is coming from that allows the district to do this. In 2001, they went through the same process. The board went through the entire abatement. It was the first time publicly they said Shelter Cove was a wildfire threat, and it's not just individual areas, it's the entire cove, all the homes, all the infrastructures, $65 million estimated of infrastructure out here. So going back to that, we didn't see a lot of change in those years from 2001 until now. We did see initially a lot of lots got cleared, a lot of our local timber and heavy equipment operators started businesses off of that first round. And then there were some legal issues on how the district did it, mainly through the fire departments charging of fees. There is a set percentage of fees up to $100 that you can legally charge. Back then, they were trying to charge 100% of the total contractor fees and the fire department inspection fees and a bunch of other stuff, and that the community members fought. A lot of community members said, no, I'll pay a contractor instead of doing the abatement process, and they ended up not doing very many actual abatements. So the abatement process itself is very well set out, and that's the process that we're doing. The kind of different part about this versus the 2001 is we have funding to pay that. So the abatement process itself is allowing district staff and appointees, the fire chief is the appointee of the district board, to put on the abatement, to go in and basically access property to do the minimum treatment as stated in the ordinance for people that we don't hear back from, or people that will refuse to do it, or people that, like we're doing right now. Phase 1 was getting people to agree. So the letter that went out was a notice to abate, which is part of the process. Mainly, we're trying to look at the folks that are absentee property owners that haven't been to their property, don't know where they're at. The only way we can get a hold of them is sending a letter via the tax address, right? So we sent out almost 4,000 letters last month. The letter basically stated that, hey, you have until October 1st to sign up for the program. Come into this meeting specifically to say what you wish, whether you're for it, you'd like to be signed up, you just get in on time, or you're totally against it, and because of X, Y, and Z. Basically, it's a hearing opportunity for these folks to come in and say why their property shouldn't meet that standard, or if it does meet that standard and they weren't able to get a hold of the fire department, whatever the reasoning was, this is their opportunity to do that. As we go through the process, we already have almost 1,500 people signed up voluntarily that wanted to take part of it, that we won't need to abate, right? If you signed up for the program via the online sign up, we're not abating your property. You guys are voluntarily being part of the program, right? So that's a very important delineation. If we don't hear back from folks multiple times through it, we're going to give them 3 chances to come back in, because we want to do this fairly. We want to do this, we want everybody to know, we want to be transparent. We don't want to go and be big government and clear people's properties if they don't want us on there. However, within this development, this is a community development. All the parcels are about 1/4 acre. It's not big timber plots or forestry land or cattle land. The laws are very specific to these size developments and what the RID can and can't do as a district that provides fire services, right? You guys can't fall under the fire district law because it says in the special, RID or resort improvement district law what you guys are bound to, right? If you guys really want some dry reading, I suggest going into that and looking at the fire district law. And it's important to know what our powers are as a district, because you guys represent so many different little things, right? You guys have portions of the power districts, the water districts, and the fire districts, and each one of those have certain governing legislation that allows you to do certain things. And as the fire chief, that's where a lot of my power and authority comes from, is that fire district law, right? Even though we're not a fire district, it does state in the resort improvement district law that we can go back to that fire district law, and that's what we use. So as I look back through 2001, I found a lot of people referring to that, saying that the county is the one that has to have the ordinance, and then we would adopt what the county does. Not necessarily true, because we can follow the fire department district law, or the fire district law that governs fire districts in our area, right? Even though we're not technically a fire district, we do have the same powers and authority of fire districts, right? That's how we're able to put on a fire department. It also says what we can and can't do, right? We can't have law enforcement, because that wasn't one of the original things established in the 1960s and 70s when they created the district. And special districts aren't allowed to add to it without changing legislation, right? So there's where a lot of that comes from. Within the fire district law, there's a very clear process for weed abatement and how it becomes a public nuisance. And because of the wildfire threat in California, we're seeing this come to the surface within a lot of counties, districts, cities, on how we can maintain the safety of the entire district, right? Without, again, being that big government and going through and saying, hey, you have to clear your lot because we want you to clear your lot, right? We want to make sure this is fair and equitable and makes everybody have the same rights, first of all, and we're doing it the right way. So we sent all those numbers out. That was for all the letters out, that's the first notice. And we had really good, like I said, we're over 1,500 people signed up for it. We have some people that own vacant lots and homes out here, and they have to go through the process to do both. And the work that's already been done is great, but the potential work is where we're going to see a lot of the really obvious signs of, hey, this community is looking a lot safer. Last year we were designated as high, very high again, and we actually got worse as far as the CAL FIRE designation goes. Even with all the work the fire department's doing, all they look at is fuel loading and terrain. They don't look at our fire trucks, they don't look at our hydrants. It's very hard for me to change fuel loading and terrain. Terrain's impossible, and we're always going to be steep out here. However, fuel loading is something that we can do together as a community. And the final issue that we're running into is, due to vacant lots and that high and very high designation, it can be very difficult to maintain our homeowners insurance, right? And so that is where this whole community, vacant lots and homeowners, we had a discussion about whether or not vacant lots should be taxed and what they pay into. This is where vacant lots are a detriment to this community, because the high majority of them are absentee property owners. And I would say 90% of the calls that I received were people that have not been to these properties in over 5 years. A lot of them were 10 to 20 years. Or they were given their property by somebody who passed away, and they've never even seen it before, right? And so that is a problem. It's a public safety nuisance. It's an issue. As the fire chief, it does become a threat, and it's very seasonal, right? So we can't abate people when the grass is wet. We can't abate because it's not a fire threat, right? The seasonal ability, it does state in the legislation that we can add them to a seasonal abatement, which is going to be the recommendation on the next round. So we're going to have an actual abatement list for you guys next round. That's where we will designate it as a seasonal threat. And we won't have to go through this process on the next time. We can say, yep, every summer, if you don't maintain your property, it becomes a seasonable public nuisance, and we do have the ability to go through. The caveat to all of this is we don't have enough money to put liens on all these properties after this, right? So the fire department came in, we got the USDA grant, we're putting a ton of time and effort into this as we're clearing your property, which is a lot of them are high thousands of dollars worth of work to clear these properties to the minimum state standard. After that, the community's gonna have to maintain this, and this is where the fire department's gonna have to enforce it a little bit more. We're gonna have to be more vocal, people that live out of the area, the contractor's gonna be busy with more weed whacking and maintenance. This can all regrow in 4 to 5 years. And part of our grant stipulations, well, we had to have a plan to maintain it, and we have that, but a lot of the community members are gonna get a little bit more oversight from the fire department to maintain these. And this isn't something that's just happening in Shelter Cove, it's happening all over the state right now. And a lot of the driver is wildfire threat and our homeowners insurance. So what we're asking for you guys is to review the background history, and if we have anybody that has objections to it, I haven't actually got a specific list of people that are coming in today. Most of the objections we were able to work out over the phone, which was great. And Jack was on the phone, I was on the phone, the office staff was on the phone, and we took hundreds of calls with people that were more just trying to figure out what the program was and where Shelter Cove was and how their lot looks, right? And so, and we want to be part of that. This is our community too, and we want to make people happy with being part of that. And overwhelmingly, people are thankful and happy about this program. We had a couple people that are just like, oh, you can't go on my property unless you follow these rules, and they were their specific rules. And we're working with them individually, but it's less than 20 people. So we're doing pretty good on that side. That's all I got.
Questions from the board?
I think my one question is the public hearing aspect of it.
So public hearing is kind of misnomer. It doesn't have to be the public hearing like we think of a public hearing.
We were following that.
Public has to have the opportunity to speak openly at a public meeting.
So it doesn't have to be.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll go closer. I know you did the houses and the clearing was what, 100 feet around the houses?
We can't go on private property if we don't have permission.
No, I'm talking just keep it whatever the property with the
Or to the 100 feet to the property line.
Right, so let's say that the lot's 300 feet, keeping it simple, right? And then you did 100 feet around it, so technically, you have another couple hundred feet. Are you gonna help clear that?
Yeah, that'll be part of the work plan that's on there. So if it was multiple lots that were merged, it should be a conversation about that single lot. Right? I don't think there's any actual lots that are over 300 feet unless they're multiple lots.
No,
so you get credit for multiple lots.
Right,
Yes.
so, yeah, that's just for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is if you're going around the house and the lot's bigger than what you cleared, are you also gonna be helping doing that?
Yeah, it's
I
full.
mean, again, so back to abatement, if you only clear X, and now they're on the hook for a larger area, that's just it's a bigger, I mean, not that they're not responsible for it because they are, but back to that grant, is it gonna help the owner when it's bigger than back to that house?
Yeah, so the 100-foot space buffer, that was just the residential part of that grant. Now that we're going back and doing all the vacant lots, anything that wasn't cleared past that is gonna be on that when they do the lots next to it, right? Then you're gonna get that. If you had a lot that was a house with 4 acres, they were supposed to clear the entire property, right? That was, most of the houses, there's no, like, I would say 99.9% of them, you can't do that because the houses were next to vacant lots. Right.
I'm gonna say I'm one of those guys.
Yeah, I know and yours was one that they went beyond that, and then they're gonna come back when they do the lots below you, and that will be a conversation.
I'm saying that back to that merge,
Yeah.
that they did around the house, but they didn't touch any of the lot.
Yeah, the lots are what they're coming back for now, so if you signed up for multiple lots, yeah, they're gonna come back. And so that conversation is gonna be had with a lot of those specific, low number properties. There's a very small handful of those properties.
No, I think that, but the better part of that equation is that, and picking on me for a minute, is that now I'm on the hook once it's done.
Yep.
That from here on out, I have to maintain it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the caveat.
Absolutely, and that's something that people should actually have to do right now. We just can't enforce it. We don't have the funds to enforce it. And we're not gonna get another grant for this. That's why they make it in our grant stipulation that we have to maintain it.
I think mine's more as cities yourself, back to what you
Yeah.
were saying, in 2 years, we have to reevaluate this. this is one of the fact that caveat. You know, now you have to maintain it. Well, we've done it, now maintain it. Well, you should have maintained it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other side to it that we advertise but not as strongly is the actual inspections for the houses come with that online profile through the Madrona software that we purchased that you can give to your insurance company and show all the steps that you've done to make your house safer. And a lot of folks don't realize that. They had the inspection came through, they were given that email and that website, but it's not computer savvy, they don't understand it. And the insurance companies come through a year later and said, oh, we're dropping you. And that information is sitting there, as well as I will also do personal inspections of properties and write up a narrative of whether or not your house needs to be mitigated or if it's fire safe from the fire department standpoint.
You know, I actually had a conversation with a community member about this exact topic and how proactive you are, so you might be getting a call.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. And again, this is all of us in this. This year was a bad example because of how pretty mild the fire season was in Humboldt. But when we were in San Luis Obispo, it was the exact opposite. They had a very extreme fire season this year. And a lot of people were out there blowing the leaves. They were, basically refusing the evacuation orders. We didn't have enough firefighters. And when we went up to the Klamath, same thing. I don't think anybody evacuated up there. And so we're starting to see a trend towards people and community members that know we don't have the resources in this state of California for all the fires that we're fighting. I don't want to see that in California. I want you guys to be able to go to the community center, hang out with the CERT team, stay out of our way and stay safe and not try and do this fuel reduction as the fire's coming through your backyard. And that's what we saw on the Little Black Sands Beach fire. There was a guy on the roof, and had the firefighters not stayed in the house, he would have died. There's no way he would have survived being up on his roof if that fire would have jumped that road. Because he just can't get down. And so if the house collapses and you're on the roof, it's not a good day. So there's a lot to this, and we've been trying to run interference and let people know that, hey, this isn't just big government coming to clear your properties and force something on you, because I do see that concern. But we have to be treating our community as a community, and it's not Endersburg, it's not Whale Gulch. This is a community of small parcels that it's not investment. It can be investment land, but you got to maintain it, and that's something that we need to keep that narrative going throughout the length of the district. So.
I know 3 times a year I won.
Yeah.
I'm not weed eater.
Yep.
I don't have a tractor like Mike.
Any other board comments, questions? No? Go to public comment? Public comments on this topic? No?
Good job for answering the phones.
Good job answering the phones. All right, so can we get a motion?
Is this the whole motion?
That one's still accurate. Yes.
So spell that whole word about.
Yeah.
I will make a recommendation.
A motion.
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
That the board directs the fire department to conduct abatement work on parcels with property owner consent and those that have not objected to the abatement process. Number 2, refine the abatement list to exclude the 1,500 parcels already enrolled in the grant program. Number 3, remind non-participating property owners of ordinance number 63 requirements and issue a second round of notifications as needed to maintain public safety. And number 4, monitor and report program process to the board to ensure transparency and grant compliance.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Mike Solari,
Aye.
Jeff Hildreth,
Aye.
Tesha Bashin,
There's the one line.
Tristan Sanders,
Aye.
and Wes Bonheim.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on, unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business that we have not dealt with or need to deal with today that we did not discuss today?
Well, there is one thing I wanted to add that Jessica will be attending a board secretary conference end of this month. So staff is also getting some training. Just wanted to add that in. Yeah.
Make sure you have a nice costume.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Time. Meeting adjourned, 12:04 hours.
You won.